Part 95. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 944. Sugu asked Pensacola and a few others. First, I found the psychological counseling room. The door was closed. Looking through the window, there was no one there. When I walked into the coffee shop, I saw no one here. Missouri was sitting on the sofa in the booth reading a magazine. She noticed that Sugu had charming eyes. She was becoming more and more charming now. Is it going to be over so soon, Admiral? What do you mean? Sugu asked knowingly. He naturally understood what Missouri was talking about. I just helped Jia go back to the room to sleep. I am a serious person. Sugu thought to himself, at most it would be a little advantageous to talk, although the meaning of this talk is slightly different from that of ordinary people. Missouri said, "Why did it take so long?" "More than half an hour." Sugu explained carefully, but before he could speak, he suddenly laughed. He looked around and saw that there was no one else around. The nearest person was Baizai at the next table, who was leaning on the armrest of the sofa and reading comics, so he didn't need to pay attention at all. Half an hour, Sugu walked behind the sofa in the Missouri booth, put his hands around her neck, and rubbed her face. You know, what do I really want to do? Half an hour is not enough, at least 2 hours go up, there is no ceiling. You are so good at boasting. Missouri is really qualified to say this now. Sugu walked back to the izakaya. Chumi was lying on the counter as usual, playing with the lucky cat and doing nothing. Ryajo was holding a bunch of boiled radishes. Akage was not eating unexpectedly. Maybe he had finished eating. She was talking to Fuzu. What is she wearing? Fuzang has her long black hair rolled up and wearing an apron. She is really big. There were a lot of people here, but there was no one he was looking for. Passing by Yubari's laboratory, Sugu saw her wearing a big motorcycle helmet, a white coat, and a welding gun in her hand. Her appearance was quite strange. Lighthouse, dock, warehouse. After searching around, Sugu found them in the corner of the townhouse, where they were leaning on the railing next to the table tennis ball and chatting. Sugu keenly noticed a problem. There was something wrong with the way Pensacola and Salt Lake City looked at him. He asked, "What are you looking at?" Pensacola said, "No." Sugu looked at Exeter. She was a truly gentle and reliable girl. She was trustworthy. She didn't have any evil intentions. Except for things related to games and other things that must not be discussed, you could talk to her about other things. So there is only York, a girl with an out-of-the-box personality and full of energy. Before Sugu could speak, York said, "It's none of my business." I didn't say anything. You don't have 300 taels of silver here, are you just asking for it? Sugu said, "It must be you who are saying bad things about me behind my back and slandering me. My glorious and majestic image." York hissed, "Admiral, you are so shameless." Sugu smiled. York said that the Admiral has changed and is no longer the bad Admiral he was before. Pensacola said at this time, "The only thing that hasn't changed is Pen Crisp," York yelled, interrupting Pensacola. "Dragons have reverse scales." Pensacola was not prepared to say anything, but her expression changed at that time. "Admiral, do you know what York said to us?" York put a hand over Pensacola's mouth, to no avail. The more Pensacola spoke, the uglier Sugu's expression became. He geared up and said, "York." York shouted, "I block." After making a fuss, Sugu expressed his intention to come. Everyone had just returned. Now that they had visited the town hall, they still had to arrange accommodation. In the town government, almost no one likes volleyball. After all, there are not many ship girls who like sports, that is, Tennessee, California, Bismarck, etc., Maryland is half of them. She just likes fighting. The Japanese are basically limited to indoor activities such as Kyoto. Volleyball is not beach volleyball. Sugu likes beach volleyball, partly because of the beautiful girls in bikinis, but mainly because of her vibrant youth, which makes people unable to extricate themselves. Many ship girls also like beach volleyball, among which Wichita, Helena, Colorado, and others are the most active. They are naturally drunkards who don't care about drinking. Anyway, the volleyball net in the volleyball court of the town hall has been removed and used for other purposes, such as playing murderous dodgeball. The hide and seek was over long ago. At this time, Xiao Zai was standing on the volleyball court, holding a volleyball in one hand, his eyes wandering between several Italian little Lolita, as well as the fantasy of long white hair tied into a ponytail, and the Lolita North Carolina. Each dodgeball team consists of 6 people. In fact, Kamichia invited Veneto at first, but Veneto refused. Then he finished his coffee and ran to the dock to watch the Nagato exercise. Nagato also has a military character and will not look down on others. In the past, he would occasionally give some advice and call her sister Veneto, but unfortunately no more. In contrast, someone, I am talking about you, Hindenburg, is a heinous person. What is it? But North Carolina, who had been talking to Veneto, accepted the invitation to join the Italian team. She doesn't mind others treating her as a little Lolita. Anyway, she is essentially a royal sister with a proud figure. She likes to play with little Lolita, at least Lolita likes it very much. The power from the ship cannot be used, otherwise the garrison would have been demolished long ago. Even so, the little Loli's strength is not, it's still quite low, but she still has some power with all her strength. Zai aimed at Kamichia, and this guy jumped the most and said, "Kamichia, you are the one." Kamichia said, "Why me?" Xiao Zai didn't even explain, "It's you." There is no doubt that Kamichia is the most unscrupulous person in the whole town. She shouted, "Sister Zai, please don't hit me, okay?" Xiao Zai firmly refused, "No. Aviel, don't move." Kamichia immediately hid behind her sister. Aviel was really aggrieved. Why did he deal with such a sister? Sugu found Keelan sitting cross-legged on the grass, watching the dodgeball game with great interest. As Sugu walked, he cast his sights on the court. Xiao Zai went on a killing spree on the field. The coordination between Z17 and Z18 is unparalleled. Although the two sisters often argue, they occasionally work together. There was no reversal. Kamichia used her sister as a shield. The Fantasy and North Carolina offense are pretty strong. He thought to himself, except for a small part of the little Lolita in his guardhouse, most of them didn't look like girls. They would never play square dancing, throwing stones, flipping ropes, jumping rubber bands, etc., and they were not exciting games. What, I wasn't that crazy when I was a kid. You lost. Sugu walked to Jilin's side. Keelan nodded. The big Lolita Antonio was hit on the head and announced that the Italian team was completely wiped out. There is no way. Aviel is weak, and none of the other Italian little Lolita are reliable, and their dreams are just like a little princess, and it is difficult for North Carolina to take the lead alone. Lafayette greeted, "It's our turn to play." Jilin asked Sugu, "Admiral, is there something wrong, Admiral?" Sugu looked back at the Pensacola people and asked for their opinions with his eyes. They nodded and he said, "You go ahead and play first. The American team is quite powerful. In fact, it's just rookies pecking each other, everyone comes and goes, Zai survives to the end, and failure is inevitable despite stubborn resistance." The American team successfully defeated the German team, and Suk Bader shouted again, Move faster." Sugu hugged the unhappy little house. He then saw Suk Bader holding up the volleyball and yelled Rafi and hit Mahan on the body. Then he yelled Rafi and passed the ball to Odin. Odin took the ball and hit Keelan. Above their heads, The two supply agents then looked at each other and walked towards each other. When they passed each other, they raised their hands and gave a beautiful high five, which was a little handsome. "Kylan, are you going to sleep alone, or share a room with someone?" After it was over, Consultant Sue was still confused by Keelan. Keelan plans to share a room with Rafi. They used to fry fish together and are good friends. Sugu helped Pensacola and Salt Lake City decorate the rooms. In fact, it was mainly his reputation and counterattack that helped him. He was there to chat with them. After finishing everything before lunch, Sugu went to find his sister-in-law, Saratoga, and found that she was still sleeping. After thinking about it, he finally didn't wake her up. He could get up and have lunch at any time. Lexington is really considerate, a good wife and a good sister. Sugu found a drink on the bedside table to relieve headaches after drinking, but he had not thought of this. Saratoga woke up in the afternoon and ran to the cafeteria to eat. Her meal was prepared by Lexington and kept warm in a steamer on the stove, waiting for her. While Saratoga was drinking soup, Advisor Sue said, "Gaga, did you hear that?" Saratoga wondered, "What did you hear?" "Nothing." Sugu waved his hand. He couldn't tell anything from Saratoga's face. He didn't know whether the girl really didn't hear it and was confused, or whether his level was too low and his ability to observe people's emotions was not good enough. Saratoga suddenly said, "How can brother-in-law compensate me?" "What will compensate you?" Saratoga was dissatisfied. "You actually let me go." Sugu said, "I didn't want to either. Who knew they would come back today by chance? It's too cheap to miss the important Valentine's Day and just go on another date." Saratoga asked for a price and raised 3 fingers. "Brother-in-law, I want you to promise me 3 things." Sugu sat on the ground and paid back the money. 3 things are too many, 1 at most." Saratoga said, "Okay, just 1 piece." "Consultant Sue, what's the matter?" "I'll tell you after I think about it." Saratoga bit the end of her chopsticks and raised them up and down. "Okay," Sugu said, "but you can't make things difficult for others. I have the final right of interpretation." Saratoga bared her teeth. She was very aware of Sugu's little tricks. Sugu's date with Saratoga was the next day. "Brother-in-law, what do you think of this collar? The small store in the underground mall sells cheap items, but Saratoga only enjoys the feeling of going shopping and dating with her brother-in-law." She stood in front of the store, holding the collar with a small bell hanging on it. "Gestures, meow." Sugu said, "Very good. Where's this collar?" Saratoga picked up another black lace collar. "Buy them all," Sugu said. He noticed that the store owner looked at him as if he was saying that his brother-in-law and his sister-in-law were having an affair. He had long been used to it anyway, so he still didn't explain anything. Another house. Saratoga held up a bat shirt. "Brother-in-law, how do you like this dress?" "I think the shirt next to you looks better." Sugu expressed his opinion tactfully. Saratoga said, "Brother-in-law seems to like shirts very much, the kind with ruffles." Sugu said, "It's okay. How about this one? It has ruffles and lantern sleeves." Saratoga added, "It seems Kirov has one. There are so many girls in the garrison, and it is quite common for them to wear different clothes." Sugu was not very comfortable with holding hands, but Saratoga liked it and insisted. The two were walking hand in hand on the pedestrian street. Saratoga noticed that Sugu's gaze was irregular. She followed his gaze and saw a girl with long white wavy hair. She said with a cold face, "Brother-in-law, look what." "I didn't see anything." Sugu looked away. "When you are with Jiajia, you can only look at Jiajia, not others," Saratoga reminded. "That's the serious, I know her." "I'm not looking at her, I'm looking at the one next to her," Sugu said and waved. That was the admiral whom he knew before. He had learned a lot about the rogue ship from his mouth. "Even though my mother's information is not my own, I am still very grateful, Yuan Lang." The man walking in front turned around and was surprised. "Sugu." The two of them chatted like this, saying what a coincidence. As an admiral, they naturally talked about how another wandering ship girl appeared, a light cruiser Sverdlov. The admiral of the East China Sea finally retired, and someone got a hero aircraft. It was really good. As luck would have it, someone built the submarine U-1405. The little girl has a poisonous mouth and is unexpectedly cute. Saratoga was still very sensible. Of course she would not have a fit in front of others. She would just put one foot on the roadside step and wave her hands in boredom. Sugu finally remembered the business and said goodbye to Yuan Lang quickly. Until they were far away, the other party would definitely not be able to hear her. Saratoga started to complain, and Sugu repeatedly comforted her. Saratoga quickly calmed down, or she was not angry in the first place and did it on purpose. They came to the pedestrian street. Must it be the admiral who is helping the ship girl buy clothes? Sirius should be helping him. Look at how lazy he is, Sugu said. Sirius looks like a mouthless, iceberg beauty, but he is actually very enthusiastic. Isn't that what Sirius in our guardhouse is like? Then he is not the same as you, Saratoga said. It's not that my sister helps you buy clothes, it's not that my sister helps you prepare clothes, and you change back and forth between two sets of clothes every day. Jia, didn't you find a very serious problem? It's all your sister, and you have never helped me buy clothes, Sugu said. I don't like you anymore. Saratoga said, okay, I will take you to buy clothes now. Returning to the governor's mansion in the evening, Sugu found that Saratoga seemed to have changed a little, but also seemed not to have changed. A few more days passed without anything special happening until late February. It has to be said that misfortunes never come singly, good things come in pairs, and everything in the world comes in pairs. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 945. It's another sunny morning. How's it going? Yoberry, wearing a white coat as usual, put his hands in the pockets of the white coat, and said proudly, I told you, there's nothing I can't fix. Repairing a car is a piece of cake. Repair the car, Missouri muttered, smiling like a thief, definitely thinking of something bad. Sugu glanced at Missouri, and he understood what she was laughing at. Sugu thought to himself, fixing cars tonight is a slang term. Not everyone in the town can understand it. It seems that Saratoga doesn't understand. Well, he can be considered a car repair expert, while smiling. Looking at the black car parked next to Yoberry. There used to be a classic car in the governor's mansion, and the things left behind by the previous admiral, including the yacht, the tools in the warehouse, and many other things were all left by her. However, all the bedding were not used, and additional new ones were purchased, including many pieces of furniture. The classic car was not far away from its end of life and was still barely drivable. However, it was spotted by 3 of the toughest guys in the town guard. It was mainly just a fantasy. They were driving without a license and they were female drivers. They stepped on the accelerator and hit the car. The wall was scrapped, thrown into the garage, and ignored. On the one hand, the governor's house has a yacht, which makes it more convenient to go out. On the other hand, no one in the governor's office knew how to repair cars, and Sugu was only good at repairing small household appliances. If something else broke, just tap it a few times, kick it a few times, and then turn it off and on again. No matter how bad it was, it wouldn't help. Tennessee and California used to be riders. In addition to driving, they also dabbled in modification and repair, but that was limited to motorcycles. Since Yoberry returned to the tutelage, even though she keeps claiming that she is not a repairman, she has still been involved in the repair and maintenance of fans, ovens, air conditioners, refrigerators, etc., as well as 2 yachts. Yoberry, that's a classic car in the garage. Let's take a look at it when you have time. If you don't want to buy a new one, repairing it is naturally different. If you repair it, you will make a lot of money, and if you don't repair it, you won't lose. I can't, don't look for me. Zizang said, I don't know how, don't come to me, and I want to collect money, but her body was still very honest. Is it really repaired? There were many people around the car. Mutsu patted the hood of the car and made a bang 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 sound. Yubari was unhappy. Sao Huzi, are you questioning my level? When Yubari was doing the repairs, Mutsu was right next to her. She said, I saw that you just tinkered with it a few times. Have you heard that story? There was a malfunction in the equipment, and the engineer drew a line on the equipment with chalk. Then he found the fault and fixed it quickly, and got a lot of bonuses. Drawing the line is not valuable, but knowing where to draw the line is valuable. Yubari said, I don't know what's wrong. Even if you dismantle the car, you can't fix it? On the contrary, it's easy. Mutsu still shook his head. Yubari said angrily, anyway, it won't be a problem if I kill you. Of course, even if the car hits Mutsu at the fastest speed, there will be no consequences other than being scrapped. After all, not to mention battleships, even destroyers, in short, it would not be a big deal for the ship girl to take one cannonball. Some cars rear-end bicycles and their bumpers are deformed, which is not a problem here. Lan circled around the car, opened the door and tried to climb in. Sugu grabbed her by the back collar and lifted her up. Fantasy is unreliable, and this little guy is no better. Sugu opened the hood and took a look, but couldn't see anything interesting. Yubari said, it turns out there are peanuts in it. Ziwi said, why are there peanuts? It must have been a mouse. Sugu had seen a lot of similar news before, and even saw a cat getting into the hood. Yubari said with a smile, I also found many notebooks under the seat cushions, which are now in my laboratory. It must have been done by Bazai. Sugu said, leave it, Yubari, and I will get it from you later. It must be burned to purify the atmosphere of the town. Leave it to us, Tianlong said. Long Tian stood beside her. A gentle girl who is also the Gestapo in Bazai's mouth, Prince Eugen said, leave it to me. Sugu stopped talking. He would definitely not be able to get it. Let me try. The technology in this world is backward, and cars are no exception. However, except that there is no automatic transmission, air conditioning, navigation, etc., and the instrumentation is also very different, the other differences are not too big. Sugu already had a driver's license. When he came to this world, he learned and became familiar with it again. He had no problem driving. I usually drive a yacht when I go out. It's simpler. At least I don't have to worry about crashing. It's a rare opportunity to drive, and my hands are a little itchy. He also remembered that he had failed the second subject once when he learned to drive after graduation. He did not die in the most difficult task of reversing into the warehouse, but actually died in an S-turn, which was obviously the easiest task besides right-angle turns. He had waited for more than a month for this. I just got the chance to take the exam and wasted a lot of time. Seeing Sugu get into the driver's seat, turn the steering wheel, step on the clutch, brake, and accelerator, and touch the front glass, Mutsu asked again, Yubari, is there really no problem? There should be no problem. Yubari is also a little worried. The admiral must not be injured, otherwise it will not be a problem for him to regret. A small light cruiser does not have much combat power. If it is not an opponent of those vicious battleships, it will definitely be torn apart. Peace. Yubari, I believe you, it's okay. Sugu showed a trusting smile and supported Yubari. He never gave up any opportunity to gain favor with Yubari, and nodded thoughtfully, anyway, the worst thing is that it breaks down or we fall apart, at best it will be a fire, not a big explosion. Yubari was originally moved. Since you can't trust me, don't let me go. Trust it, Sugu said, turning the key in the ignition and honking the horn. Diddy. It's time to drive, get in the car quickly. Mutsa ran to the passenger seat, and Missouri stretched out his hand to hold her. The snipe and the clam fought, and the fisherman gained. The last person to sit in the passenger seat was Ziwahi, and her eyes narrowed with laughter. There were adults and little girls. There was only one row of seats at the back of the car, and 5 people were crammed into it at once. It was seriously overloaded. Sugu honked the horn again, but there was still someone standing in front of the car. Thatcher, Thatcher, go away a little bit. Thatcher, what are you doing? Fletcher pulled away from his sister. York City stood in front of the car. She said funnily, the road ahead is clear, you can drive. Sit tight. Sugu returned to the steering wheel, put his left foot on the clutch and his right foot on the brake, then shifted to first gear and pulled the handbrake, and released the clutch. Suddenly the car started to tremble, and then started to move slowly again, although the speed could not be faster than walking alone. How many? There is no way, the condition of this car is worrying. It's moving. Lan jumped up and down and followed the car, making oh sounds as he walked. He was quite excited, as if he had seen something powerful. Speed and passion are Yuang Xiang's favorite. She sat in the back seat and shouted loudly, faster, faster, ejection start. Admiral, be careful. Cologne gave Kong Xiang a head, you haven't given me the ring yet. Mahan rode her scooter to catch up with the car and looked at Sugu, who still looked serious even though the speed was very slow. Admiral, this car is not as fast as my Alfred. Sugu waved his hand to drive Mahan away. Mahan, please step aside, I'm afraid of bumping into you. Sugu drove the car from the garage to the back door of the governor's mansion. Since the back door was not used at all, the big iron door was closed, but the iron bolts were rusted and a big lock was hung on it, making it impossible to walk through. When something goes wrong, step on the clutch until the clutch with your left foot is depressed, then step on the brake, and then shift into reverse gear. Since there was no rearview mirror and he didn't know where he was going, Sugu could only stretch out half of his body from the car window to look at the road. He first drove away the people following him, then reversed the car little by little, and drove the car back to the garage door. It's not a big problem. Sugu got out of the car. He said, as if he hadn't tried high speed, driven for a long time, or experienced acceleration and deceleration at 100 meters. Is it too arbitrary? Yubari snorted, of course, don't you see who built it? You are amazing. Sugu praised him without hesitation. Sugu walked around the car, touched the body, and twirled his fingers. It was full of dust, especially the roof, which was gray. It's full of dust. I need to wipe it carefully later. It's enough to repaint the scratches. Sugu touched the small pits all over the hood again. It was such a serious traffic accident at the time, but now it's good to be able to move. I don't expect it to be as smooth as new, but there are cracks everywhere. It was bumpy and ugly. This is difficult to handle. California was here from the beginning, leave this to me, little problem. Okay. Sugu looked at California and smiled again. Actually, after the car is repaired, I can't drive it a few times. Everyone goes out to buy a basic yacht. In the end, it is still your toy. You can race again, even on mountain roads. It's not easy to walk. California doesn't just do motorcycle racing, it does everything, diving, sailing, windsurfing. It's a pity that the governor's office does not have hang gliders. The conditions required for this are too harsh, and the governor's office will definitely not be able to provide them. In addition, there are no machine guns for them. She plays. In Sugu's imagination, Nevada and Oklahoma were almost different, but California was the most suitable. He rode a powerful motorcycle, wore an khaki jacket, a red scarf around his neck, and with a Gatling gun. She must be super handsome and the absolute heroine in the Wasteland game. Yubari Sugu pinched his chin and shouted again. Um. Um. Sugu felt that he was pushing the envelope a bit. Can you convert this car into a convertible? A convertible is good, so my brother-in-law can take us for a ride. Saratoga cheered. A certain image had already occurred to her mind. Her brother-in-law was driving, and she was sitting in the passenger seat of the convertible, with her long blonde hair fluttering in the wind. It's a pity that her imagination is not rich enough. If it were South Dakota, the child would have been born, and the family would be traveling there. Yubari said, I think the maglev car is better. Sugu said, if possible, it would be best. Yubari said, you do have a good idea. Let me tell you, Sugu said, honestly, it shouldn't be difficult to modify a convertible. It must be easy for you to point fingers from the side. Yubari said, if you want to go for a ride, why not buy a speedboat? It happens to be used by the town government on a daily basis, not just for fun. Good idea, Sugu said, isn't the company's shipyard branch next to a shipyard? Not only large passenger ships and cruise ships, but also speedboats and yachts are produced. I still remember the company mentioned it once. If you want to buy any boat, just ask her, it can be cheaper. Sugu continued, of course I know. The company sounds nice, but it is actually a benefit that all admirals in the garrison have. Deep-sea ship girls wreak havoc on the sea, attacking ships, and then the ship girls are the protectors. Jianniang headquarters has never mentioned differential treatment, but almost all shipyards and Jianniang headquarters have shares. If you don't think so, I am worried. It's just the difference in the number of shares. The lifeline will definitely not be controlled by others. To be honest, the Kanyang headquarters has a hand in almost all industries involving the sea. Otherwise, why would it maintain so many Kanyang branches and garrison fortresses? Just saying it, we need to discuss it again if we want to buy a speedboat. Is it really necessary? Sugu greeted Lexington to open the back door of the town hall. He was not satisfied yet. This time he wanted to drive to the county seat and then back. Sugu looked back and didn't wait for him to ask, which of you wants to go to the county town together? Everyone had already gotten out of the car, but now the car was already full of people, and they were holding back a sentence. Slowly, Sugu drove the car on the mountain road. The mountain road was rugged and bumped by a big rock from time to time. It was really uncomfortable. It was better to drive a yacht. Saratoga said, brother-in-law, your speed is really too slow. The winding mountain road has a cliff next to it. Sugu said, take your time. The road conditions are not familiar yet, and the cars are not familiar either. Safety first. Ruhi was also there, but she didn't grab the passenger seat this time. Don't you usually drive very fast? You can't even see the exhaust. Sugu said, is there any? It took a long time to get to the county seat and stopped on the side of the road. He definitely couldn't just reverse the car back to the town hall. He also wanted to stroll around and talk about it. Sugu thought about it and made up his mind, let's go there. Where? Saratoga asked, Trade City or the plaza? Tianhao's place, Sugu said, I haven't visited him for a long time. Sugu looked back and thought, it turned out that they had agreed to take Wisconsin to visit, but they had been delayed. Ziwi, he said, I haven't been there yet, and I haven't seen the African admiral who is the best in the world. Passing by the pier, Sugu drove the car carefully. Saratoga held her chin and looked at the scenery along the road. Tall coconut trees, young people running by, adults holding children, couples quarreling, large advertisements posted on the walls. The clerk stood at the door of the store and shouted, a small circus troupe, and a bronze-skinned beauty dragging a trolley suitcase. Brother-in-law, stop, stop, stop. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 946. You mean Brooklyn? As the car was driving on the road, Saratoga suddenly stopped and asked what was going on. He said that he seemed to have seen his past companions who had not yet returned to the garrison. Sugu hit the brakes at that time. Saratoga said, "It's not Brooklyn, it's O'Higgins. They are all one person, the light cruiser Brooklyn, renamed O'Higgins after Reconstruction. Although she didn't have much fighting power, her sister Helena was much stronger than her, but her transformation level was low, so Sugu still practiced a bit and opened the illustration book. In fact, there is another reason. Brooklyn is obtained in the early stage of the game. There is an ascension mechanism in the early stage of the game. Maximizing the use of this mechanism may allow a ship to directly upgrade from level 1 to more than 20 after a battle. Unfortunately, bugs that are beneficial to players are fixed very quickly, and other bugs are changed in settings, which makes people unable to help complaining. The car stopped on the side of the road and put on the handbrake. Since the driver's seat was on the left, Sugu could only let Saratoga lean back. He looked over the girl through the passenger window. It was still the same problem. The game's illustrations and the difference between the real person and the real person is too big. I looked for it, I didn't see it. What is she wearing? Saratoga said, black windbreaker, shoulder-length hair, standing at the door of the milk tea shop. Still not seen. Sugu found the milk tea shop and saw a large advertisement posted at the door of the milk tea shop. There were also large parasols, tables, chairs, and benches. There were male and female junior high school students sitting there. No one matching the girl's description was seen. The car window was only that big. Saratoga pushed Sugu aside and took a look. It's gone. I saw it too, but I don't think it was O'Higgins. The eldest sister is very nice, but she is not stable in front of the admiral. The second sister makes people's heads hurt. She insists on dragging people into fights. The point is that she can only be abused if she can't win. As long as there is any chance to get rid of her sister, West Virginia will never miss it and sneak out by chance. Saratoga said, it's her, it must be her, I saw her profile, and her complexion was so striking and bronze. The Brooklyn is named after Brooklyn, New York, USA. Brooklyn is a gathering place for blacks and Chinese, so Brooklyn has a bronze skin between yellow and black people. As for gameplay, the ship girl here comes from history and memory, which can be regarded as having the same purpose. This is the South, and there are bronze-skinned people everywhere, West Virginia said. I remember O'Higgins had braids, but she didn't. It's not braids, it's just tied up, I don't know. Saratoga glanced at West Virginia as she spoke. With her bulging figure, her brother-in-law occasionally took advantage of him and called her daughter-in-law, so she must have known it. But let it go, like CV-16, he is also the number one vixen. Didn't you also have shawl hair before? But today you tied it into a ponytail. Can't others do the same? West Virginia subconsciously touched her hair. She was originally being dragged to the training room by her second sister, Maryland. They were going to fight and spar, so her long hair naturally had to be tied up. Saratoga continued, look at Kirov. He used to have braided braids, a khaki military coat, and was rustic. What does he look like now? His hair is permed into big waves, he wears a one-shoulder shirt with a hanging collar. Wearing sunglasses, a camera hanging on her chest, cropped pants, and high heels, she is more fashionable than anyone else. West Virginia said, I really don't understand, why has she changed so much? Saratoga said, I guess he was stimulated. Same goes for Kinyagaza. Wikaku interjected, now I wear a peaked cap, earphones hanging around my neck, and I know how to wear necklaces and loose vests. I don't know how to wear a jacket properly. I expose half of my shoulders and follow the trend. I used to be an honest kid. Can only put on bandages, but can't even wear bra. Saratoga glanced at Ruhi's chest and sneered, "You're not wearing a bra either? Well, you don't need it, children's underwear is enough." Sugu listened and thought to himself that flat chests also have bra, and to be fair, Ziwahi has more or less, at least an A, while Veneto is truly flat. "I can tolerate anything, but not this." Ruhi shouted, "Golden Retriever loser." Saratoga retorted, "Green-haired crane. Stop arguing, shut up." Seeing that the two people were so angry and glaring at each other, their eyes collided and sparks appeared. Sugu stood up and said, "Gia, you started the trouble first, apologize to Ruhi." Ruhi said proudly, "Apologize." Saratoga snorted and turned her head, apologizing for sure. Sugu didn't force him. The two sisters-in-law looked at each other in disgust. This kind of thing happened often. It was a trivial matter at all. Missouri held her dream while Colin lay on the back of Sugu's seat. She suddenly said, "I have never understood why O'Higgins is not with Helena. Aren't they two sisters?" The relationship between the two sisters was just average, Saratoga said. "Is it because Brooklyn turned into O'Higgins?" Colin said, "but Lin Xian has a very good relationship with Chung Ching." Saratoga said, "I'm not too sure." Sugu said, "Historically, the last two ships of the Brooklyn class, the USS St. Louis and the USS Helena, had strengthened anti-aircraft guns and modified the design. They were a little different from the Brooklyn class, and were sometimes separately classified as the St. Louis class. Is this the reason?" "I don't know." Saratoga suddenly giggled and gestured, "I only know, Brooklyn only has a little bit, and Helena is so big, they are definitely not sisters." Sugu said, "St. Louis is similar, only Helena is special." Haina Ziwahi's voice was filled with jealousy. Wait, Sugu suddenly reacted and raised his hand. "Well, what have we been talking about here? What we want to discuss should be whether that person is blue, O'Higgins. If it's not, it's not, and if it is, something big will happen if you miss it after seeing it." Ruhi said, "If it is O'Higgins, she cannot appear here for no reason. If it is a big city like Shuangziu, let's talk about it. Since she is here, she must know the existence of our garrison. Even if she can't find it now we're here, we'll probably see it when we get back to the town hall." Sugu nodded. Ruhi smiled, "We have two townhouses here. If it is really O'Higgins, will she find the wrong townhouse?" Sugu didn't know what expression to show, so take pity on him. "Tianhao has complained to me several times, and from time to time someone calls the wrong guardhouse." Is it that?" Missouri suddenly said, pointing forward. Saratoga said, "That's right." Sugu quickly looked over, and saw a woman with long white and slightly pink hair draped over her shoulders, dragging a trolley suitcase and walking under the camphor tree on the roadside. He drove quickly and tried to catch up, but he didn't dare to hit the accelerator. There were many pedestrians on the road. There were no special motor vehicle lanes or non-motor vehicle lanes here. Everyone was treated equally. Saratoga looked at the pedestrians and said dissatisfiedly, "Don't these people watch the road? My brother-in-law honks his horn and kills them." Sugu was amused. Gia, you used to be a pedestrian. When you met a car, didn't you say something? Press, honk. What kind of horn are you going to reincarnate in a hurry? I refused to let you go, so you hit me." Sugu thought to himself that when he was browsing online forums, he saw many car owners shouting that pedestrians who disobeyed traffic rules deserved to be hit and killed. Others argued that uncivilized phenomena cannot be dealt with in a civilized manner. Pedestrians who do not obey traffic rules can be fined, and their lives are at stake. The price is too serious, otherwise if you don't obey the traffic rules when driving, you will be pulled and shot. In the end, the butt determines the head. How could I be so rude, Saratoga said. I was in a bad mood that day, and didn't I get out of the way? Sue was non-committal. He looked at the retreating figure in front of him, made a rough estimate, honked the horn, and drove the car to the middle of the road. Since there were people setting up stalls on the roadside, he had no choice but to pass them first and then pull over. You guys take another look, is it O'Higgins? That's her, Saratoga said. West Virginia also said, it's O'Higgins. Saratoga said, West Virginia, didn't you just say no? Sugu wanted to get out of the car, but Saratoga pulled out a pair of big sunglasses from somewhere and put them on. Brother-in-law, this, if you put on these sunglasses, O'Higgins will definitely not recognize you. Sugu took the sunglasses, then. Saratoga said, if you wear sunglasses to strike up a conversation, she will definitely not recognize you. When you finally take off your sunglasses and recognize it is you, his expression will be very interesting. Sugu said, I feel stupid. Saratoga coquettishly said, it's fun. Missouri likes this kind of game the most. How about waiting for her to walk up and call her beauty while sitting in the car? At least let's get a convertible. Our car is too old. The front of the car is uneven and full of scratches. We forgot to wipe off the dust on the roof. We just wanted to test the car and didn't plan to enter the county town. Just go in. Sugu said, driving a car like this to strike up a conversation? I don't want to see disgust or a blank stare. Missouri said, wouldn't it be more fun this way? Are you too bored? Yeah, Missouri said, we're just bored. Sugu said, Gia is still in the co-pilot. I'll sit in the back. Saratoga was so happy that she squeezed between the two seats into the back row. Sugu said, spare me. Missouri said, no. The sun shines through the gaps between the trees, and there are dots of light spots on the neatly laid cement floor tiles. Here O'Higgins was arranging his hair as he walked. It still took more than half a month from the time I saw the news about the town hall in a magazine and rushed here immediately. At this moment, thinking about returning to the governor's mansion, I feel a little excited and a little uneasy. Is this the so-called timidity of being close to home? The coastal streets next to the pier are still quite lively, although it is insignificant compared to the cities I stayed in before. I bought a cup of coconut juice at a roadside milk tea shop. There is only one Kaohsiung number in the county, so it must be another one. There are various shops on the roadside, including supermarkets, hardware stores, tobacco and alcohol shops, fruit shops. Do you want to buy something to go home? You probably don't have to. As Okensis walked, he suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. There seemed to be some eyes staring at him, which made people uneasy. O'Higgins continued walking, and she finally discovered that there seemed to be a black car following her. It's not like I haven't encountered a similar situation before. I was walking on the street, a luxury car stopped on the roadside, and there was a boss with a big belly, and more often a handsome guy who claimed to be handsome, chatting with me. Others just waved their hands and refused, and the dandy boy also encountered him. He kept pestering him and even wanted to use his hands and feet, but he had no choice but to give him a rough lesson. But it must be an illusion. How could anyone drive such a broken car to pick up girls? Don't they have any self-awareness at all? Indeed, there is no self-knowledge at all. Beauty. There was a strange sound in his ears, as if the pitch was deliberately raised. Okensis turned slightly and looked towards him accurately, frowning slightly. The man sitting in the driver's seat was wearing large sunglasses. It's not like the dazzling sunshine in midsummer, but there is a pretty naughty guy there. His chin looks a little familiar, but I'm not sure who he looks like. Beauty, I see you are dragging your luggage. Where do you want to go? I can take you there. You can't go where I want to go. What an annoying guy. Okensis was in no mood to say anything more. She waved her hand, thinking that if she wanted to go to the garrison, she had to sail there, which was on the other side of the mountain. As O'Higgins continued walking, she noticed that the car was still following her. "Don't worry, beauty. Brother is not a bad person. Look at my honest face." O'Higgins showed a disgusted expression, what kind of fool he was, and said contemptuously, "Your car is too old, please get a better one. Although it looks shabby on the outside, it's very luxurious on the inside." O'Higgins completely ignored him and didn't deliberately avoid it. It seemed like he was scared. "Can you find a deep-sea ship girl to give it a try?" She was minding her own business. "Do not be shy. Let's go to the bar for a couple of drinks, and let me tell you, my bartender is awesome. Beauty, you're tired of dragging the suitcase. Come on, put it in my car." O'Higgins clenched her fists and wanted to take action. She keenly heard voices and suppressed laughter coming from the car. She stopped until the car stopped. She looked in from the passenger side and saw that the back row was crowded with people. They were all girls. No one was inferior to her. The most important thing was the familiar one's face. "Ha, O'Higgins. You finally discovered it?" O'Higgins looked at the man in the driver's seat again. He had taken off his sunglasses, revealing a familiar and unforgettable face, and distant memories came flooding back. "O'Higgins, I'm back. Sorry for leaving without authorization. If they insist on playing, I can't help it, so don't mind." O'Higgins' expression was a little complicated. He reached out and smoothed his bangs. His hair seeped out from between his fingers. He bit his lower lip lightly, opened the car door and got in. "Wait, O'Higgins, that position is mine." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 947. Despite being shameless and dishonest, Saratoga still took back its own throne, the passenger seat. O'Higgins could only sit next to Colin, and now the back row was really crowded. Even the relatively petite Ruhi could only sit in West Virginia's arms with an ugly expression. Sugu looked at it, and he deliberately said, "Whoever can sit in my arms," the little princess dreamed. "It's you." No problem, of course. He just thought about it. How could he say such arrogant words? And it involved dangerous driving, which was undesirable, and safety was the most important thing. Missouri is not a Lolita fan, just a little otaku guy, but she doesn't hate other little Lolita either. She rubbed her dreamy face and said with a smile, "Gaga, do you know? The best position is behind the driver's seat, belongs to the most distinguished person in the car." "Do you think I'm so easy to deceive?" Saratoga sneered. "When the driver drives, the seat behind the driver's seat is the seat of the most distinguished person, but when the owner drives the car himself, the passenger seat becomes, in other cases, the passenger seat is usually reserved for the person closest to the driver." After Saratoga finished speaking, she leaned on Sugu's shoulder, and Missouri said, Gia is still quite powerful, and I know this." Saratoga pried, "What don't I know? I didn't expect to meet O'Higgins beforehand. It was such a coincidence. Anyway, I met her and everyone said hello. Of course, it was impossible to visit a certain admiral's garrison again. I could only choose to continue next time." Sugu turned around. "Getting ready to return to the garrison. That's the battleship Missouri, the new ship girl who joined our garrison." The car drove slowly, and Sugu remembered to introduce Missouri to O'Higgins, and pointed to West Virginia. "O'Higgins, take a guess. Who is she?" West Virginia opened her fingers and shook her head. "Does O'Higgins still recognize me?" O'Higgins sat next to Cologne, looking up and down at West Virginia. The girl's figure had changed a lot. It was originally ordinary, but now she was showing signs of surpassing her eldest sister. However, her appearance only became more mature. He hesitated. "West Virginia." West Virginia smiled mischievously. "No, I'm Maryland." O'Higgins said, "It's okay if you don't speak. Once you speak, I'm sure you are West Virginia, what a big change." "Because of growing up," West Virginia Pride said. Ruhi felt the soft touch on her back. As a girl, she had no heartbeat, only sadness. She nodded, she could grow too, that's okay. The car drove out of the county town and resumed driving on the mountain road. The speed was still so slow, about 20 yards. Everyone talked about various things. O'Higgins was unexpectedly a very talkative girl. She looked at the trees and farmland along the road. "To be honest, Admiral, you are so good, you actually want to strike up a conversation in such a broken car. We found out it was you a long time ago, otherwise I would never have driven a shabby car to strike up a conversation. In fact, I felt stupid at the beginning, and they were the only ones who found it fun." Sugu said, "O'Higgins, do you think I'm stupid when you start chatting with me in this kind of car? It's so stupid. It's better to drive a car like this to strike up a conversation. It's better not to drive anything at all." O'Higgins looked around again. "Well, I don't understand, indeed, driving a car like this to strike up a conversation is just for fun, but if you think about it carefully, it's terrifying to think about it carefully. Is the town guard that poor? You just drive such a shabby car when you go out? The tutelage is on an island, and everyone basically uses yachts when going out, and cars are completely useless. This car was originally scrapped and kept in the garage until Yuberry returned to the Tutelary and repaired it. I will take it out for a try today." Sugu explained, and he suddenly remembered, could he ask Yuberry to add 2 machine guns to the car? O'Higgins nodded after hearing this, and she said, "Am I the only one left who has not returned to the town hall now?" Saratoga said, spreading her fingers, "Almost, there are no more than 5 people left." Along the way, O'Higgins kept calling Admiral, and Cologne said, "Well, O'Higgins actually doesn't need to call him Admiral anymore. You can call him brother-in-law instead. You are now his sister-in-law." West Virginia said, "I am the Admiral's sister-in-law." Cologne said, "Work hard to make sisters from Königsberg and Karlsruhe become the Admiral's sisters-in-law." O'Higgins didn't react immediately. "What do you mean?" Ziwikaku said, "Because your sister Helena is now the wedding ship, the 9th wife." O'Higgins suddenly became excited and asked, "Is it true, Admiral?" The car was about to go uphill. Sugu stepped on the clutch and shifted into a low gear. The traditional and standard address is to call his wife's sister-in-law, but the verbal way is definitely different. He pursed his lips and did not answer directly. He shouted funnily, "Sister." O'Higgins patted Sugu on the shoulder and smiled, "Brother-in-law, brother-in-law." We walked on the mountain road from the county seat to the Tutelary mansion. Notwithstanding the difficulty, the distance was not short. However, the time flew by while we were talking. Before everyone could finish chatting, we soon returned to the Tutelary mansion. The car stopped at the door of the garage. There was no one here, but there were a few little girls running around in the empty garage. When Kongxiang got off the car and joined in, Sugu took O'Higgins to the vicinity of the dormitory building, where there were more people. When Houston passed by, she actually recognized O'Higgins. "Hey, who is this?" O'Higgins raised his hand and waved, "Houston." When he understood what was going on, Houston said, "Admiral, you are so lucky. I went out and picked up an O'Higgins." Dafeng was sitting on a stone bench under the big magnolia tree. She was lying on the stone table writing a novel. She saw something out of the corner of her eye. She looked up and saw O'Higgins. She didn't speak and subconsciously touched the middle of the stone table. I touched the plate and found it empty. The reason was that the plate was empty except for a little food residue. Buduo sat opposite Dafeng, and she stared at this side. "Dafeng, there is another one from the armored aircraft carrier Indomitable. She is also a new ship girl who joined our garrison." She has a bit of a vicious mouth, but she is still a very nice person. Sugu felt that he had to remind O'Higgins to avoid possible disagreements in the future. Although Buletinshu has restrained himself, there is still something wrong with him. The greetings were made all the way. Although the two sisters had a normal relationship, they still had a relationship. They still wanted to meet Helena. No one was seen in the coffee shop, and no one was seen in the faculty office. Finally, he was found in her room. Man, sleeping. So what story begins now? Go to bed so early. O'Higgins looked at his sister's sleeping face. Did you not sleep well last night? I don't know, Sugu said, reaching out to wake Helena up. O'Higgins stopped Sugu. Let her sleep. Sugu took back his hand, and O'Higgins walked around, looking at Helena's room. The room is neither tidy nor messy. There are clothes hanging on the walls, upside-down books and magazines on the desk, various small ornaments on the bedside table, and a lot of messy cosmetics on the dressing table. If your underwear is thrown around, that's no problem. In comparison, the rooms with the top few people were really bad examples. When Okensis was looking at the books on the bookcase, the woman sleeping on the bed turned over. Sugu said, Helena is about to wake up. Helena didn't know why she was so sleepy recently and wanted to sleep in the morning. So far, there is no record of a ship girl being pregnant, and no one knows whether it is possible. In addition, because of this, there is no continuation of life. Many people keep saying that ship girls are nothing more than weapons. However, although it does not exist now, it does not mean that it will not exist in the future. For example, the deep-sea Yamato used to be a terrifying monster. With the emergence of new models of ship girls and new models of deep-sea flagships, it has now become a funny character, a deep-sea model worker. All in all, as an idealistic life, if a ship girl gives up on her own, there is really no chance. Just as Veneto has completely given up on himself subconsciously, so until now, no matter the breasts or height, there has been no change at all after so many years. He wanted to have an admiral's child, although he didn't seem to care too much. Unfortunately, I only had a little lethargy, which was probably due to the weather. I never had nausea, retching or general weakness, and my lower abdomen was still so flat and firm. Occasionally I think about it, if she had been pregnant before Lexington, there was always a feeling that she would definitely find someone to lock her in a dark room and abort that child. If that happens, they will definitely resist. Only this one will never give in, and will work hard to persuade others, so that everyone can stand up bravely and resist the tyranny of Lexington. Anyway, I was sitting in the coffee shop in the morning, reading a magazine and talking to Wichita, and suddenly I felt sleepy. Drinking a large cup of coffee didn't help at all. It's not a big deal, I plan to go back to the room and take a nap, and I'll basically be refreshed in half an hour. I didn't take off my clothes and slept with my arms around the quilt. Unexpectedly, I dreamed of the Admiral again. Drowsily, Helena woke up anyway and saw the Admiral sitting by the bed looking down at her. Admiral, why are you here? She had slept for a long time and her head was a little dizzy. Before Sugu could say anything, Helena stretched out her hands and put her arms around Sugu's neck and leaned into his ear. Her voice was charming and her breath was like a orchid. Admiral, I just did it. A dream, we were at the beach. Admiral, I want to give birth to a child for you. Normally, they would just make firewood and make a fire. It doesn't matter even if it's broad daylight. Anyway, the old couple already has everything. Surprisingly, there was no response, no warm embrace, only, ahem, cough, cough, that Helena, do you see who is here? O'Higgins was really stunned. His originally stable sister? Helena let go of Sugu and turned her head slightly. She saw a person standing next to the bed, holding a magazine. Although her back was to the window, the sunlight from the window was very bright, making her a little dark, but she could still see clearly. That familiar face shouted out almost subconsciously, "Sister O'Higgins." O'Higgins responded, "Yeah." The air felt a little quiet for a while. "A nightmare, definitely a nightmare," Helena shouted again, "Sister O'Higgins." "I'm back," O'Higgins said. If it were another person, Helena could still be generous, but that was her sister. She collapsed on the bed, not knowing what to do, and her mind went blank. Then she saw Sugu and signaled him to say something with her eyes. Sugu spread his hands, meaning that he didn't know what to say. Helena got up from the bed, brushed her bangs, and tucked the loose hair behind her ears. Over and over again, she really didn't know how to explain that. In fact, not only Helena was embarrassed, but O'Higgins was also a little embarrassed. O'Higgins only saw a large wedding photo of Sugu and Helena hanging above the bed. Helena was wearing a veil and a white breast-wrapped wedding dress sitting on the chair, Sugu was standing behind, and there were also pictures on the bed. The photo frame on the head table is also a photo of Sugu and Helena, sitting side by side on the rocks at the seaside, with the blue sea behind them. They are all photos of you and him. You are really in love. Ha ha ha, yes, we are husband and wife, this kind of thing is normal. Helena finished speaking with a smile, and Sugu thought to himself, come on, you are stupid. At this time, you can either pretend that nothing happened, or, O'Higgins has already given him the steps, so he doesn't want to lift the pot. O'Higgins said again, trying to lighten the atmosphere, Helena, I didn't expect you to become a wedding host. It's just a compensation ring. I didn't want it. Helena finally recovered. She was a little arrogant. It was completely different from how she usually spoke in front of the little loli. At that time, she had incomparable charm. The admiral prostrated himself under the pomegranate skirt. As a sister, O'Higgins naturally has to say, how is the admiral treating you? If he is not good, I will not be like before, no matter what he does, I will not dare to resist. Sugu said, don't worry. It's okay. Helena glanced at Sugu, thinking that someone just had too many wedding ships. Originally there were only 8, but now there are more than a dozen people, and the situation is getting worse. I don't know how many people there are in the end. Until one day, it would be good if we were together every day. After not seeing each other for so long, it was inevitable that we were a little unfamiliar, but we soon became familiar with each other. Little things were revealed, and everyone chatted happily. O'Higgins accidentally opened Helena's wardrobe and asked curiously, Helena, your wardrobe, why are there so many weird clothes? Helena said, what weird clothes? The must-have underwear, cheongsam, wedding dress, nun outfit, sailor outfit, belly band, maid outfit, and this is the admiral uniform. Women's style. Helena turned to Sugu little by little. This certain person was really controlling and would not give up until he cooperated. Sugu coughed, then walked to the closet and closed the closet door. I just said that we are a loving couple, so this kind of thing is normal. O'Higgins picked up another book under the bed and opened it. It was full of unsightly pictures. If it were just that, it would be okay, but there was even a dog-eared corner. O'Higgins didn't dare to ask again. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 948. For several days after that, Sugu noticed that O'Higgins looked at him strangely. If he and Helena were together at that time, especially in a remote place, in the corner of the corridor, in the warehouse or on the high platform behind the blackboard wall, the look would be even stranger. Counselor Su asked once, but O'Higgins didn't want to say anything and couldn't force anyone to speak. After thinking about it, he ignored it. No matter what it is, in the final analysis, a pure person will be pure himself. He will not do anything bad in his life. He will not be afraid of ghosts knocking on the door in the middle of the night, or he will not be afraid of slanting shadows when he is upright. After Pensacola and others returned to the town hall, O'Higgins also returned to the town hall. I originally thought that more people would return to the town hall one after another. It would be best if everyone came back. After all, there were not many people. Personal. It's a pity that it's just wishful thinking. There are only a few days left in February and no one will come back. Colossus returned to the academy very early, after eating Lantern Festival during the Lantern Festival. Anyway, the meat on this girl's chopping board is completely safe, so you don't need to worry about it at all. March is coming soon, and March has entered spring. Spring has arrived, everything is resurrected, and it's the turn of the century again. In short, the ugly phoenix tree, which lost all its leaves in winter and was left with only bare branches, now sprouts young branches and leaves. To be honest, if these phoenix trees hadn't bloomed all over the canopy with red phoenix flowers, clusters next to each other, like flames, extremely bright and beautiful, they would have been shoveled out long ago. The leaf falling phenomenon is so serious that sweeping the floor is a big problem. The uncomfortable southerly weather has begun again. On the first floor, both the floor and the walls are always wet. You can even see small drops of water on the tiles. The second floor is not much better. How do you put your clothes on? Drying is always a big problem, and it is very likely that the clothes will get wet as they dry. What good place should I say? Although the garrison is in the south and the winter is not cold, there is no need for a large cotton padded jacket, sweater, or woolen trousers, but a large coat is still indispensable. Now that the temperature is up, it's natural to change your clothes. Uxian's long legs have been touched for a long time, and he is worthy of the name of the leg fairy. Is the lion true? It has long legs and is invincible. Isn't it nice to keep staring at Wisconsin's pair of seductive black stockings? The girl is so sexy. Missouri, what should I do if I find that the yellow silk is getting more and more smelly? Lexington, you can't do this, pantyhose foul. Then again, it's a pity that a winter has passed so quietly. It has never been snowy, and it was completely wishful thinking to be covered in snow overnight. Skiing is not allowed in the Toot Larry mansion. I can't have a snowball fight either. I really want to have a snowball fight with the little Lolita. I can make a huge snowball bigger than a basketball and knock them down. It makes me happy just thinking about it. It must be fun to build a snowman. There is a small snowball on top of the big snowball as the head, a broom in the left hand, a broom in the right hand, a bucket upside down on the head, and a carrot as the nose. Northerners will never understand why Southerners immediately turn into huskies when they see snow. How has Xiaozai been doing recently? On this day in March, in the faculty office not far from Xiao Loli's classroom, Sugu sat in Helena's seat and casually flipped through the desk calendar she placed on her desk. Richelieu is the guardian of the little princess Fantasia, the cute bombshell Sukuf, and Vaclin. The little fairy Sigsby, the Shiba Inu Thatcher, the sweet Sullivan, and now there is a love brain Claxton, and their guardian is Fletcher. Sugu, the guardian of the small house, and even Bismarck had to step back, regarding this point. He was actually self-righteous, and of course it was right in a sense. He was the guardian of everyone in the garrison, and the small house was no exception. The small house is made of real leather, and it is similar to not doing homework, passing notes in class, sleeping, etc. Tianlong babbled on with his fingers. Is that all? Sugu said, looking at Tianlong from the corner of his eye. A white shirt paired with a black hip-hugging skirt outlines his proud figure, especially the chest area, which is really tight and stretched by flat-chested cat ears and so on. The light cruiser average line has gone down, and one person has suddenly raised it by a few points. Of course, this point is definitely not as big as Helena's contribution. Tianlong adjusted his glasses. Yeah. Sugu said, I know, I must teach her a lesson. Is the Admiral really planning to teach Xiaozai a lesson, or is he taking the opportunity to rub her face and bully her? Tianlong asked curiously, holding his cheek. She naturally knew who Sugu was. Who do you think I am? Sugu left the office while laughing and explaining vaguely. It was raining, so of course the little Lolita was not outside. Sugu ran to Xiaoxi's room, but there was no one inside. Passing by Akage's room, he saw her kneeling next to a short table with various colorful flowers placed on it. Just what he recognized were daffodils, anemones, delphiniums, hyacinths, etc. Where did you get so many flowers, Akage? Next to the water tower. As long as he is not eating, even when eating, Akage is still dignified and elegant. She played with the transparent glass, and used scissors to trim the leucanthus in bud and put it in. The first step in flower arrangement must be to insert larger and main flowers. After thinking about it, she inserted a few more white roses, and then take it out, hesitantly. Next to the water tower? Behind the complex, right, Sugu said, isn't that the unicorn's secret garden? Sugu remembered that he had been there a few days ago. The garden carefully tended by the unicorn was truly beautiful. On the ground, under the trees, and around the small pavilion, there are green grass and flowers in bloom. Here and there are red, gold, purple, and white everywhere. Anyway, it is colorful, butterflies are flying, and the air is filled with refreshing fragrance. Aromatic. Yes, the secret garden of the unicorn, Akage said. Now in spring, everything is blooming. Except for playing the harp in the cafe, Unicorn spends most of her time in her secret garden. Behind the complex is a garden that opens in spring. Behind the dormitory building where the cafeteria is located is Yuxian's territory. Behind the other dormitory building and the hexagonal pavilions are connected together to form a garden that opens in summer, and near the lighthouse is a garden that opens in autumn. After breaking so many flowers, aren't you afraid that my unicorn will round her harp and hit you on the head? The unicorn attaches great importance to his garden. As Sugu said, he noticed that Akage had found another milky white ceramic vase. Insert baby's breath and white roses. If you don't know, you have to do nothing but say CAO CAO. CAO CAO is here, but the person who knocks on the door is not a unicorn, but Huda holding a ginger fish cake. In fact, she is not knocking on the door, but looking for Sugu. Passing by. Wearing a thin sweater, a plaid skirt, pantyhose and black leather shoes, she looked like a British lady. Hood walked into the room and sat down next to the short table. The flower arrangement is so beautiful. Akage smiled lightly. Hood thinks it's beautiful, so I'll give it to Hood. The green leaves set off the white flowers. It is really beautiful. This is not a polite word. Hood looked happy, holding the vase in both hands. His eyes were bright, thinking about where to put it in the room, whether on the desk or on the bookcase. Otherwise it would be better to put it on the desk or the bookcase. On the small round table, is it okay? Is it really okay? I really took it? Akage said, you're welcome. Seeing Huda's behavior, Sugu said, I'm just saying that Huda is definitely not that powerful, and he will be polite before attacking. Huda curiously asked, why do you treat yourself with courtesy first and then attack with force? Sugu said, I thought you found out that Sheik Hung had broken so many flowers and came here to investigate. Yes, these flowers must have been cut by the secret garden. Hood suddenly realized. For the secret garden, we searched everywhere for seeds. We visited Sichuanjiu, flower and bird markets, and flower bases. We usually go on expeditions, so please bring back whatever seeds we see. We are busy every day, sowing and watering. Fertilizing, catching insects. Akage, you actually lost it like this, Hood said. Well, as compensation, I also want a vase. Sugu couldn't help but said, secret garden, isn't it a busy day for unicorns? When have you ever helped? All you do is sit by and drink black tea and call 666. I've obviously helped a lot, Hood defended. Sugu said, then tell me. This, that. An idea flashed in Hood's mind: we are revolutionaries with different division of labor. The unicorn does the work, she is the flower farmer, and I am responsible for planning, what to plant here, roses or peonies, and what to plant there, rose or mulberry. Admiral, you don't think it's that easy to build a beautiful garden, do you? Sugu couldn't be fooled so easily. He knew exactly what his wife's abilities were. He curled his lips and said, I understand. You are not just watching the unicorn do things, but you are also giving instructions. Hood asked, Admiral, do you really distrust me? Yes, I just don't trust you that much, Sugu said. He held the forelimbs of the ginger that Hood placed on the tatami with both hands, trying to lift it up. In the end, he didn't lift it up because the ginger suddenly grew so good. Long. I kept forgetting to ask. Sugu suddenly remembered something. Akage, have you asked the unicorn? Isn't it good to just break off the flowers that others have worked hard to grow? I asked her and she allowed me to fold it. Akage is not a little Lolita. As an adult, of course he knows how to be polite. Is the unicorn willing to give you a discount? Sugu thought about it again, and it seemed that the unicorn was still very talkative. Hood picked up the bunches of flowers on the short table and said again, suddenly I thought about it, flowers are very beautiful and everyone likes them, but they also have life and pain. Instead of breaking them off, why not is it better to fold them and let everyone enjoy the flowers quietly? Hood said, the breeze is blowing and it's great to sit under the pavilion and enjoy afternoon tea while enjoying the beautiful garden, isn't it? Pretentious, as long as they are not other people's flowers, not flowers in public places, but your own, anything is fine. Sugu looked at the vase that Hood put back on the table. He also liked it very much. Don't you want it, Muta? I'll take it. Let's go and put it on the bedside table. Admiral, you want it, Akage said, don't let Lexington know that I made the vase and then throw it away, or pretend to break it accidentally. Sugu said, she won't do such a thing. Hood grabbed the vase and said, I didn't say no, since it's already like this, let's do it. I just said next time, don't fold flowers again, it's too cruel. No more, Akage said. She knew very well that the unicorn had promised her, but she was still reluctant. She was just not good at refusing. If everyone cuts flowers in a garden, they won't be able to see it anymore, so they shouldn't cut it. It seems that I am not qualified to say this. Muta, you are so embarrassed to say. Sugu suddenly discovered that the other flowers on Huda's forehead were real flowers. He tapped his own forehead. Muta, here. Huda was stunned and quickly discovered the problem. She hesitated and pretended not to understand. What do I have here? Sugu was rude. Where did you fold it? Have you asked the unicorn? Well, one, I just broke one off. Hood said, Admiral, you know how to bully me. Soon after, Hood left, and she remembered to take away the vase Akage gave her. Sugu sat in Shishin's room for a while, and then he left. When he walked down the corridor, he found that it was still raining. It rains every day lately, I really don't like it. He still prefers heavy rains in summer. It feels great to do something in the room while listening to the sound of rain. Admiral. Sugu stood under the eaves and watched the rain. He looked in the direction of the sound and saw Chui Shui walking into the eaves. She had a flower on her forehead and long blue hair draped over her shoulders. She was wearing a yukata with all the clothes on it. It is a flower pattern, with a red straight wooden umbrella in her hand. The girl who is graceful, usually energetic, is now quiet and has a different kind of beauty. Sugu suddenly remembered the sentence, flowers are ready to be broken when they bloom, but don't wait until there are no flowers to break branches. He shook his head. Chui Shui is still a girl. Chui Shui noticed Sugu's gaze. She put away her fan, raised her hands, and turned around. "Admiral, am I beautiful?" Yasugu nodded. "The spring rain is not beautiful, but the girl is beautiful." "I bought a new one yesterday," Fubuki said. "I have one, and Shirayuki also has one. She looks beautiful in it." "Well, Princess Kaguya. Baishue is naturally very cute." Sugu still remembers her wearing the Tiantian crown on her head, wearing a red and white witch costume, holding a Kagura bell and a cypress fan, and dancing Kagura dance. She was moving and still, with a kind of sacred and holy beauty. Just returned to the guardhouse after that, he never saw her skipping again. However, it didn't stop him from saying, "Shirayuki is very beautiful, Fubuki is no worse than her." Fubuki giggled. As long as the admiral liked it, that would be fine. Fubuki suddenly said, "That's great. Consultant Su, what's so good?" "Look at the rain," Fubuki said, "with the admiral." Sugu smiled. Jingle bell. The bell suddenly rang, and it was lunchtime. Fubuki jumped up excitedly. "It's time to eat. Today is the cafeteria in charge of our Japanese department. I saw Sister Fuzu making caviar warship sushi in the morning. Yeah, I want to eat 10. And a big bowl of eel rice, or a big bowl of heavyweight beef rice." Sugu was amused. Fubuki was still the same Fubuki after all. March passed in the drizzle, and April soon came. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai Rong Yan. Chapter 949. Successful. I finally succeeded. In the small room next to the garage, in Yuberry's laboratory, there are messy instruments on the experimental table, or Lenmeyer flasks, and test tubes on the test tube racks filled with colorful liquids. Yuberry is wearing a white lab coat. He held a capsule between his thumb and forefinger, laughing like a maniac. Veneto was holding the hot coffee, and she thought to herself that Carmichael was naughty and mischievous, and was not afraid of anyone. Well, there were still several people who were afraid, such as the Lion, the Prince of Wales, Admiral Hipper, etc. Wait, she didn't dare to be shy in front of them, and Yuberry was one of them. Regardless of the power distribution room, the top of the water tower, the basement, or the dense forest outside the town hall, or wherever, there was nothing that I dared not go to, except Yuberry's laboratory. Why? In the little Lolita's words, Yuberry is a mad scientist. He likes to capture little girls for experiments, slice them, or pour strange potions. He also likes to modify everyone's ship equipment. Even destroyers can launch carrier-based aircraft, but the side effects are all naval guns were dismantled. There are iron cages, electric chairs, shackles, electric saws, strong acid, etc. in the laboratory, which can only make people scared. Is the love potion finished? Veneto saw that Nanda was wearing glasses. He was clearly not nearsighted. He wore plain glasses, a white hairband on his head, a white dress, and white shoes on his feet. He was dressed like a literary girl, but where are the literary girls who think about giving love potions to the admiral all day long? Give it to me. Seeing Wichita reaching out to snatch it, Veneto sneered and thought, if you want to become a wedding ship, you should improve your personal charm. It's ridiculous that you don't do your job all day long and try to achieve your goal by relying on messy means. Don't grab it, it's not a love potion, Yuberry yelled, raised his hands, and spoke again, and Wichita, do you want a love potion? That lump of flesh on your chest is the best love potion, and it will definitely drive the admiral crazy. But I don't know how to make good use of it. That's right, Wichita puffed up her chest proudly, her white shirt almost unable to hold it up. Button, please hold on a little longer. Veneto watched Wichita walk out of the garage, her face livid. Have you completed the development of the one I asked you to develop last time? Helena's eyes sparkled. Colorado was leaning on the experimental table, playing with the weights. When he heard Helena's question, he stopped moving his hands and perked his ears. This was an important thing. Although it was not stated clearly and he was not a little Lolita, Veneto naturally knew what kind of medicine Helena was talking about. Its function was to improve men's endurance and restore men's energy. She sneered, thinking that two juicers would take it every day. The demands are too much at night. Do you still want to sleep? No, no, that will take a while. Yuberry had another attack. Helena and Colorado, I'm not talking about you, by the way, Mutsu, you are one too, are you about to do it? Admiral, one day, the steps are empty, I will definitely stay in your room tonight. Baizai giggled, I must want it? It's not yours either, Yuberry said, don't say I haven't developed it yet. Even if I develop it, I won't give it to you. Go to sleep when you feel sleepy, it's more effective than anything else. It's a medicine that's 3 parts poison, so it's best if you don't take it. Don't eat. I said to refresh myself, isn't there tea and coffee? It doesn't work, Baizai said, besides, tea is very bitter and coffee is also very bitter. Veneto drank the coffee in one gulp and frowned slightly, thinking that the coffee was obviously very fragrant, but even if it was bitter, didn't you know how to add condensed milk and sugar cubes? Is it what I want? Sirius said, as long as you eat it, you can grow. I want to become a smart drug. New Orleans stood up, the stupid sister is intolerable, stop Ovo. My sister has a lot of, 3-headed and 6-armed medicine, mine. Fletcher was in a trance. She looked very tired. Just hearing her voice was heartbreaking. It's really painful for you, my sister. I wish I could get better quickly. Guangrong wants sleeping pills, what does she want with this one? Swafeng wanted a bad luck medicine, but her problem was clearly sucking other people's luck. Daifeng and Shinano shouted about the lucky medicine, Saratoga started shouting, Richelieu spoke again, and Veneto wondered, when did this small laboratory have so many people? It had completely turned into a vegetable market. Veneto was about to leave when he heard Yuberry's call. Veneto, this is the breast enlargement medicine you asked me to develop. Now it's completed, no problem. Veneto stopped and turned around. Yuberry introduced, even at an airport like yours, just one pill will instantly turn you into the Prince of Wales. I don't need such a thing. With this thought in mind, Veneto somehow reached out his hand, Yuberry opened her fingers, and the capsule fell into her palm. Is it really so magical? Veneto said, looking around. The Xianghe and Ruhi sisters, the cat-eared sisters, and more people were all looking at them with eager eyes. She immediately clenched her fists. Time flew by so fast that before I knew it, it was already night. Veneto took a shower and rested for a while. He sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the capsule lying quietly in the palm of his hand. He hesitantly threw it into his mouth, remembering Yuberry's instructions not to choose coffee, tea, or any other drink. After taking the medicine, I drank it down with a large glass of water, wiped the corners of my mouth, climbed into bed, and waited for the miracle to happen the next day. Veneto, wake up, wake up. Veneto opened his eyes and saw people surrounding the bed. Let's see quickly, does it work? Why is it still like that? Veneto lowered his head and found that his chest was still empty. He looked confused. Did the breast enhancement drug developed by Yuberry fail? No, mine is too big. Veneto followed the sound and looked over. Hood was sitting by the bed, holding a ginger fish cake. She originally only had a pair of A's, but now she has a bottom of D. Her plump bust is even bigger than the reputation standing next to her. And I. Veneto saw Maryland again. She was finally worthy of the name Grand Canyon level. With that scale, no one would dare to question her. Even her originally dry butt became bigger and rounder. Why? Veneto looked at Yubari, she needed an explanation. I'll take another pill and try. Yubari walked away, leaving only a figure behind. It's useless, you are Veneto. No, I don't want. Veneto shook her head and sat up suddenly. She gasped and patted her chest, thinking that it was a dream, and suddenly realized that something was wrong. Veneto lowered his head, his heart suddenly twitching. Has it really gotten bigger? Hands, and feet. Veneto murmured to himself, stretched out his hands, and found that not only that, he seemed to have grown taller as well. Veneto jumped off the bed and walked to the floor-length mirror embedded in the closet door. He saw a tall and beautiful woman appearing in the mirror. The beauty has medium-long white hair that falls on her round and smooth shoulders. She has well-proportioned willow leaf eyebrows and dark eyelashes that set off her bright eyes. Her face is beautiful and heroic, and her body is slender, but she still has feminine beauty. The necessary plump body, the upper circumference is plump and firm, and it is absolutely impossible to control it with one hand. The waist is slim, and the buttocks are also full of beautiful lines, which is simply fascinating. Veneto said to himself, is this me? Chaser. Lend me a suit of clothes, hood. Not hood. Not lion. She's really too tall. Colorado, stupid Hindenburg, Mutsu, Nagato, anyone can do it. There was definitely no way to wear his clothes anymore. Veneto opened a crack in the door and found his pursuer walking past. Soon after, Veneto took over the clothes borrowed by the pursuer. When he put his hands behind his back, he discovered another problem. The buckle of the underwear could not be closed anyway, and the clothes were a bit small, especially the chest. However, finally I put it on anyway. Big Sister Veneto has turned into a real big sister, a big cow. Veneto walked in the corridor and knocked Kamichia on the head. She was rarely angry and smiled lightly. Andrea and Kaio stood by the door talking, and Veneto raised his hand to say hello, good morning. You, or you Veneto, Andrea stammered. Who else could it be but me? Veneto put one hand on his hips and smoothed his hair with the other. The hair slipped from between his fingers, tilting his head in a funny way. She walked to the cafeteria with her head held high, but just as she sat down, Veneto found that the Admiral was sitting opposite her. She thought to herself, for the rare time before, he actually took the initiative to find her today. Also, this line of sight is too direct, it's really realistic, but it doesn't matter. Occasionally I heard Helena say, I need to change my underwear again, the original ones are too small. The Prince of Wales then spoke, me too, I'm planning to go to Sichuan show tomorrow, shall we? Together, Veneto interjected. No one dares to look down upon herself, and Kamichia no longer dares to be naughty. She must be submissive in front of the majestic eldest sister. The eyes of envy and jealousy make people feel a little bit happy. Let's find someone to practice. Defeated by Richelieu, a big hole opened in his clothes, and a large piece of white and greasy skin came out with his hand to block it. Veneto laughed, this is life, life as a battleship. Sister-in-law. Sister, please wake up. The sun is shining on my butt. Veneto opened her eyes again in a daze, and this time she felt deeply how dazzling the sunlight was. She squinted her eyes slightly and found that the sunlight illuminated the bedroom, illuminating the floating dust, and casting a magnificent glow on the floor. Pattern, Kamichia threw herself on her body, her blonde hair shining brightly in the sun. Sister, you finally woke up. Veneto subconsciously touched her chest and felt her ribs. She didn't want to believe it. Sister, are you okay? Kamichia asked worriedly. Although she was an unreliable little girl who only knew how to do nothing but help, she still cared about her. Veneto didn't answer. She sat on the bed and scratched her messy white hair. The sheet slipped from her body, her shoulders were drooped, and her expression was dull. Kamichia suddenly said, "Good news, great news. Sister Veneto, let me tell you something." "Say," Veneto said without energy. Kamichia said, "Sister Yubari invented a breast enlargement medicine that makes even your flat breasts look so big." "Really?" Veneto was stunned for a moment, unable to distinguish between a dream and reality. Fake Kamichia laughed heartily, "Happy April Fool's Day." Veneto bit his lip, grabbed Kamichia and gave him a good beating. "You can't be angry about April Fool's Day pranks." Kamichia's butt was red, she shouted, little did she know that she had just hit the muzzle of the gun. Veneto finally let Kamichia go, and April Fool's Day damned her, she fell down on the bed. "It's over." Sugu stayed in the lion's room at night and had breakfast with her today. The lion was not interested in playing pranks. She was a majestic queen. Most people did not dare to come to her to play pranks. However, there were still a few exceptions. Saratoga brought a Coke. "I won't drink it." April Fool's Day, April Fool's Day, Sugu didn't dare to forget. He waved his hand and refused. The reason was that he knew exactly what his sister-in-law was playing, which was to mix vinegar, soy sauce, salt, mustard, and other seasonings into Coke. Ingredients: a carefully prepared strange-flavored Coke with a normal color. "Idiot brother-in-law," Saratoga said as she picked up the Coke and drank half of it in one go. Brother-in-law was deceived. "This is normal Coke." Sugu suddenly thought, isn't a pigeon also a kind of pigeon? The April Fool's Day pranks of Zai, Fantasy, Lawfight, and other little Lolita are definitely a success. They stood one by one at the entrance of the cafeteria, looking up at the fluorescent lamps and pointing at them, whispering something to each other. First, some stupid adults were attracted to them. Seeing so many people surrounding them, it couldn't be a prank. Gradually others were attracted. "You have all been deceived," the last few little Lolita laughed. Only Lexington never walked away. Xiaozai said, "Sister Lexington, there is nothing up there." Lexington still looked up at the fluorescent lamp, signaling Xiaozai not to speak. She seemed to have discovered something. "Make a lie come true? Is there really anything?" Xiaozai wondered, but didn't see anything. "Xiaozai was deceived and has nothing." Lexington suddenly laughed and rubbed Xiaozai's face. "The little house is depressed, it was originally a great victory." Lexington smiled, she was worthy of being the great demon king. "When did sister lie to you?" After breakfast, Sugu saw Yubari sitting on a small horse in front of the garage. A mecha he had never seen before was running around. Mahan shouted, "Alfred, slow down," and followed behind. Sugu thought of the game he had just played and the first April Fool's Day he had spent. At that time, Mayan's portrait turned into a mecha, and the broken state was a small motorcycle. Of course, those were all seen online. "I didn't have the destroyer Mahan at that time, so this little girl was quite difficult to build." "Yubari Fool Master, I have studied a lot of historical data. In many wars, no matter which world it is, high-tech mechas are the decisive weapon in wars. More historical battles have proved it, and in the port area, only then can your motorcycle be truly adapted to such power." Mahan took a deep breath and opened his mouth slightly. "Admiral, Suk Bader caught the submarine U-96. That afternoon, Sugu saw Odin, the supply agent, running over anxiously. He sighed and gave her a loud bang on the forehead. "Odin, don't you know? April Fool's Day jokes can only, it is a strict rule to open before 12 noon, and anyone who makes fun after midnight is a huge fool." Odin covered his forehead and said aggrievedly, "But it's true. It's still a lie." Sugu's heart beat faster, he didn't believe it, he couldn't believe it. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 950. He should have waved his hand, or rubbed Odin's cute little face, said let's play, kid, and walked away. Sugu couldn't help but feel that someone was controlling him. He turned into a marionette and actually followed Odin on the way from the garrison to the dock. Odin, don't lie to me. I've reminded you that it's past 12 o'clock and you can't continue playing pranks. If you lie, don't blame me for being unkind. Sugu repeatedly emphasized that he swore that if Odin dared to lie to anyone, he would definitely pick him up, kiss his cheek, and bite his cheek, followed by the invincible windmill rotating 360 degrees, which would definitely make you dizzy, and the whole world. He became dizzy, fell down and hit the wall while walking. Odin said, I didn't lie to you, really. How do you know she is U-96? She said it. Sugu asked again, how did Sukbader catch her? Oranges, you can catch them with oranges in one go. Sugu asked, orange? Yes, it's orange, Odin said, didn't you tell Sukbader the admiral? It seems, that's what I said, Sugu said to himself. He still remembered that before he abandoned the game, the submarine U-96 had not appeared in the game, and there were not even satellites. The first time I heard about U-96, it was wrong. I had known about it before in the academy, so I can only say it was an impressive one. After finding Washington and others, I met Feng Xiang, a girl with the power of a submarine surgeon and a wife, and a little girl named Xu Meng with a little devil personality. I heard her talk about U-96. It is said that it is super cute, especially it's a certain point. So I have been eager to build U-96 since then, but I have never had the chance. I have imagined countless times that building a ship girl has to go through the history that a warship has gone through. U-96 is definitely a heroic submarine to a certain extent. It has cruised 11 times in its life, and there is even a movie based on it, from time to time. Attack from the bottom of the sea, will you also experience attack from the bottom of the sea? Build metaphysics, watch attack from the sea while building or salvaging, which can effectively increase the shipment rate. It is said that no metaphysics is as good as women's clothing construction. According to incomplete statistics, women's clothing construction can increase the construction success rate by 10 percentage points. Laugh. Since Sukbader returned to the garrison, she likes fishing. I gave her a task, to catch U-96 for me. Fishing requires bait. I learned from various channels that U-96 is an out-and-out snacker and likes fruits, so use oranges, apples, pears, etc. as bait. Of course, this mission is just a boring joke and there is no hope at all. Could it be? Is it really possible? Why does Sukbader use oranges for fishing? Generally speaking, oranges are not used for fishing. There is another question that I really don't understand. Sue's consultant Odin. He frowned, not noticing that Veneto was sitting under the big magnolia tree with the cafe in hand. Her white mid-length hair was drooping. She looked listless, decadent, and sluggish, as if she accidentally walked on the beach in the summer. See Helena, Colorado, Prince of Wales and more. Sukbader was fishing at the pier, and I was accompanying her. Odin tilted his head, we were eating oranges and chatting. Why did Karmicha keep covering her butt? She forgot to trick the Admiral on April Fool's Day, so she just lied. He and we caught U-96, and Sukbader suddenly picked up an orange and hooked it on the hook, saying to give it a try. It is said that fishing can also be addictive. According to scientific research, fishing can cause the brain to produce an endocrine secretion called dopamine. Especially the moment you catch a fish, a large amount of dopamine will be secreted. This substance can make people eliminate fear and feel happy, and subconsciously produce characteristics such as stickiness, persistence, and dependence. Catching fish is really fun, especially when you need to fight to catch a big fish. There are a lot of skills in walking the fish. There are many things to pay attention to when pulling and releasing. It is exciting and attractive, but no matter what, it is still boring when the fish bites the hook, so he Bartle brings snacks every time he goes fishing. Your explanation is fine. Sugu said, but it's still too much of a coincidence. Odin said, I also think it's a coincidence. Anyway, I caught it. Sugu crossed his arms and lowered his head, but his eyes did not fall on the ground. It's pie in the sky. Which garrison will encounter a lost ship girl who just woke up at sea, and then easily fish it up? There are a few incidents happening all over the world every year, which is not a rare thing. Generally speaking, the most common situation is that ordinary people discover ship girls. One more thing is worse than one less thing. Not everyone dreams of becoming an admiral. People need to be self-aware and guide them to the garrison or the local ship girl branch. Destroyers are common, light cruisers are also common, but submarines are rare, and their rarity is comparable to that of battleships. Among them, U-96 is particularly rare. Although it is still not as good as U-81, which is just an urban rumor, U-1206 is the most common. In addition, not everyone is a Lolita. In the minds of many admirals, submarines are still inferior to battleships. Although they are a great weapon against deep-sea battleships, they pose too many threats and are quite useless. This place is not like a game, with great protection and no scruples. It is definitely wrong to catch U-96 with oranges. A reasonable explanation should be that U-96 was wandering in the sea and happened to find that oranges were attracted and fished it again. Coincidence after coincidence, it's unbelievable. It happens to be April Fool's Day, an April Fool's Day prank, so is there another possibility that is higher? This U-96 may not be a wandering ship girl, but may have an admiral. Whether it's man-made or God's prank, when you can't wait to salvage, and finally find out that someone has an admiral, how does it feel to have your dreams shattered? But no admiral I know owns a U-96. Even if it is newly fished out, it won't be so boring. April Fool's Day is really not an important day. I will show it again when I have the opportunity. This time I will send a telegram to prank you for entertainment. Isn't it better? Another possibility is that it was not a prank. There are 2 garrison forts on the island. Apart from himself, there is absolutely no possibility of another garrison. For the garrison further away, an admiral would not trust a small submarine to run so far away. The submarines in his own garrison are so powerful. It is also stipulated that they are not allowed to swim too far away unless accompanied by an adult. But how can I be so lucky? I am just an unlucky guy. Modesty, in fact, I am very lucky, and I can be considered a European. In the past, newbies brought their own lions. Many people had no house at level 100 and they could easily obtain them. Many people Wu Bei spent his whole life. He did not deliberately fish for the boat during the Valkyrie event. He pushed out 2 U-81s and came here even more. Yorktown was initially built, and CV-16 was built again. Over the past few years, there have been only a handful of times when I accidentally caught a ship girl, and there should be one. Thinking about various possibilities, his heart just lifted up and then sank down again. He went back and forth several times, worrying about gains and losses. Sugu felt that he would have a heart attack sooner or later. There is really a young girl with silver hair and twin tails at the pier here. She is wearing a large white cap with a hydrophone on it. Her clothes are a corset and a metal corset. The dashboard is on her chest. Anyway, she is quite exposed. Click. Click. The little girl held an apple in her hand and ate most of it. So far, she had basically reimbursed the snacks brought by Sook Bader. Chocolate balls, mochi, fried milk, peach cakes and other snacks had already been taken care of. Eat all the oranges in the big bag, leaving only the peel and seeds. York City put his arm around CV-16's shoulders, and she was right next to him. She was just joining in the fun. I was practicing carrier-based aircraft nearby, and I saw Sook Bader pulling a young girl out of the sea. I was very curious, of course, it is impossible to really catch it, even if a ship girl is not like a real warship with thousands tons. Normal people still weigh a lot, but fishing rods and lines are not that tough. Sister Andrea is busy and occasionally has time to rest, and her second daughter Kaio is also there. She has time to relieve stress by feeding seagulls at the pier and beach. At this time, she had a bag of breadsticks in her hand. It was not made in London. How could it harm the lovely seagull? She found a young girl staring at her and hesitated for a moment. You want this?" The little girl had finished eating the apples and put the apple cores together neatly. She didn't say anything, mainly because her cheeks were still bulging and she nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. "For you." The young girl took the bag of breadsticks from Ko without any courtesy and started to eat it happily. "Eat slowly, don't choke." Ko was an absolutely gentle girl, she said and looked around, but no one brought drinks. York City whispered, seeing how delicious she eats it, "I want to eat it too." "What a big swordfish hairpin." Sook Bader touched the big hairpin pinned to the young girl's twin ponytails. The young girl said, "Sawfish." Sugu's strengths were not learned, but his weaknesses were learned tenfold. York City let go of CV-16 and rubbed Sook Bader's watermelon-like hair. "Sook Bader, you don't understand this. The submarine emblem of the historical submarine U-96 is a green open laughing sawfish, and she is wearing a sawfish hairpin. It was only by seeing her hairpin that I confirmed that she was U-96. Even though the cultural classes were poor, York City still knew a little bit about it after studying together in the academy for so long as Sugu's initial ship." "Oh," Sook Bader said noncommittally. "I was really unhappy that I didn't say it was awesome." York City put his hands on the little girl's head and rubbed the dog's head angrily. Sook Bader finally slapped away York City's hand and glared at York City. When she looked up, she saw Odin walking in front, followed by Sugu. The two got closer and closer. She waved her hand and shouted, "Admiral." "Is it really there?" Sugu came to the dock and saw several people gathered together from a distance. He knew that something was not simple. When he walked in, he saw a cute little girl he didn't recognize. He couldn't see the ship's uniform, but only his outfit is almost the same as what he saw in the picture book before. U-96 is correct. Sook Bader ran to Sugu, pulled his pants, and claimed credit. "U-96, my trophy, I caught it with an orange." "Yes," Sugu responded. Sook Bader warned, "Admiral, you must not forget what you promised me before." "Don't worry, I remember." Sugu thought about how he took Sook Bader to a fishing gear shop in Chuangziu. The young girl also wanted this and that, and she obviously already had several fishing rods. Even if the governor's office is not short of money, it can't be so pampering, so it is said that as long as you catch the U-96, the little angel U-156 will naturally be fine, as will the surgeon fish. Anyway, you can buy any fish you want. Sook Bader chuckled. U-96 had finished eating the breadsticks. She squatted on the ground with her hands on her knees. When she heard everyone's words, she raised her head and looked at Sugu. "Are you the commander here?" Taking a deep breath and calming down, Sugu replied, "Yes, I am the commander of this town and the port area." To avoid confusion, the unified titles are Admiral and Garrison. It's just that for the newly awakened ship girls, they haven't learned anything. Different ship girls have different titles, such as Chief, General, Commander. Judging from this point alone, the U-96 in front of him may not have just woken up, but he has definitely not experienced much. U-96 said, "Thank you for providing me with food." Sook Bader said, "Obviously I gave it to you." And Mikao whispered, "No one heard." Sugu lowered his head, and York City explained, "She ate all those things on the ground alone." U-96 looked speechless and expressionless, but his face turned red at this moment. "In order to repay you, sir, is there anything you need me to do? Do you have any enemies? Let me help you eliminate her." I have no enemies, and I don't need you to repay me. Sugu thought of a way to repay him, but he would not speak. That's it? For some reason, U-96 looked a little disappointed. Sugu said, submarine U-96. U-96 replied, submarine U-96. Where are your adults? Sugu was suddenly a little scared. No adults, just me. Sugu was reassured, where are you from? U-96 hesitated and shook his head, I don't know. Sugu thought to himself that it was now confirmed that U-96 did not have an admiral and had just woken up at sea. He asked again, why did you come here? You can swim all the way to here. Sugudong looked around and said hesitantly, what are you going to do next? U-96 said, I want to be a hunter, a ship girl mercenary, and hunt deep-sea ship girls in exchange for food. As a ship girl, I was born with this knowledge. In fact, the common sense that the ship girls who first woke up were incompatible with the entire world, as if they were ancient people who traveled to the present. But although the ship girls who are awake now still have many things they don't understand, they know the town guardhouse and the ship girls' headquarters. So some people speculated that the sunken ship girls formed new ship girls, and the new knowledge that the new ship girls vaguely knew were the memories that the sunken ship girls once had. I am the most powerful hunter. U-96 continued to say that when she saw Suk Bader's small bucket containing fish, she bit her lip, her stomach suddenly growled, and her face turned red instantly. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 951. You've obviously eaten a lot, but you're still hungry? Think about it, being a ship girl is really a magical life, I seem to have mentioned it many times. Anyway, many people only need a small bowl of rice for each meal and are unwilling to eat more for fear of getting fat on their waist and legs. The most important thing is to gain weight but not breasts. To lose weight, lose breasts first. But people like Akage, who are outright big eaters, have stomachs that are like bottomless pits, and no matter how much they are stuffed into them, they are the bane of buffet restaurants. Then again, there are many big foodies in the governor's mansion, but there are really no foodies. Changchun, Thatcher, etc. can only be said to be greedy. So is this going to usher in a snack foodie? No, 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 it's not reliable yet. Remember, there is no disappointment if there is no hope. All in all, when U-96's stomach was found growling on the dock, Sugu took her to the cafeteria. She couldn't let anyone go hungry. Who is that? In the corridor from the kitchen to the cafeteria hall, Yuxian handed a large ceramic bowl to Sugu to heat up the leftovers from lunch. U-96 Sugu said, taking the bowl, thinking for a moment before speaking, Yuxian, please prepare some more fruits and vegetables. Sugu understands. During World War II, Germany used submarines most extensively. A submarine voyage may last up to 12 weeks. When preparing for departure before combat patrols, in addition to fuel and torpedo weapons and ammunition, the submarine needs to carry a lot of supplies. Every unused corner on the submarine is used as much as possible to store fresh food, because these will be consumed first. The reason is that fresh food is not easy to store, and food is easy to rot and mold. Especially when a submarine is sailing underwater in tropical waters, the ventilation device works hard, and the high temperature continuously generated by the operation of the power and mechanical equipment on the boat. High temperature and high humidity are a big killer. Once the fresh food is exhausted, canned food can only be used to help, and such days will be uncomfortable. For example, the crew of a U-boat often worked as fishermen, and also supplemented the food carried by the victims to salvage the food they needed. Interestingly, some of the sunken merchant ships may have carried some animals. If these animals survived, there is no doubt that they are the most popular guests of submarine officers and soldiers. To sum up, under such conditions, the first thing many submariners do after completing their missions is to eat fresh vegetables and fruits. So I infer based on history that I happen to have a few little subs who like vegetables and fruits very much. They are not picky eaters like other little Lolita. It seems that I don't have the confidence to say this. I am the pickiest eater in the guardhouse. A person who enjoys eating meat every day is now forced by Yuxian to eat vegetables. Yuxian entered the kitchen, and Sugu returned with the bowl. He stared at the chopsticks placed on the bowl and subconsciously felt something was wrong, but couldn't figure out what was wrong. After a moment, he remembered that U-96 had just woken up, and she was not a fisherman or a Japanese. She probably didn't know how to use chopsticks, just like York City didn't know how to use them at the beginning, so she quickly found a spoon and fork. You are really attentive. Of course Sugu turned around and saw Missouri. He thought to himself that no detail could be missed. Missouri said, with a U-96, the Admiral finally got what he wanted. Sugu shook his head, I still can't believe it. What's so unbelievable, Missouri said, I used to know an admiral when I was in the battle group. She picked up a battleship. I remember it was the aircraft carrier Soryu. She just woke up and met the deep-sea ship girl on the sea. He was badly beaten and finally rushed to the beach, and then she was found and carried back to the town hall. She is just a Kang Long, Sugu emphasized, we are U-96. You're a little girl. Missouri twitched her lips. In the final analysis, no matter from any angle, the Kang Long is definitely more powerful, rare, and practical than the U-96. Sugu waved his hand, he was naturally joking. One hand crossed his chest, and the other hand clenched into a fist to support his chin. Missouri said, I heard everyone said that Akage was the one you picked up on the beach before, and you also picked up many messy resources. To be precise, Akage was obtained by signing in and opening a box within 7 days of the game. Sugu was thinking this, and suddenly felt that Suk Bader's fishing of U-96 was not that extraordinary. It was another way of opening a box. U-96 was sitting at the table near the window in the cafeteria, and U-47 and several small U-boats were naturally found to accompany her. Are you U-96? U-47 sat opposite U-96. She sat on the bench, swaying her legs, hunched over, resting her elbows on the table, and holding her face in her hands. Yeah, U-96 felt that the little girls across from him were very familiar, but he obviously didn't know them. When U-47 heard the answer, she sat up again, clenched her hands into fists, and only extended her index fingers and placed them on her temples, the bowl of Scapa Flow. Moo. Moo. I am U-47. Senior U-47, U-96 said involuntarily. U-47, an absolute U-boat myth, the most successful U-boat during World War II, and the most ferocious alpha wolf in the German wolf pack tactics. The total tonnage sunk exceeded 100,000 tons. The most outstanding achievement was to sneak into Scapa Flow and sink the Royal Oak. Therefore, it was called the Bull of Scapa Flow. A jetting cow was painted on the control tower. He, U-47 was elated, but also thought that his performance was not as good as the big mackerel, and was a little unhappy. Little did he know that the enemies we faced were as different as gods and pigs. The living environments were very different. A certain country's anti-submarine warfare relied entirely on concealment. U-81 introduced herself. She was holding her little wolf Friedrich, and the other 2 little wolves were circling around her legs, or sniffing around U-96 feet, just like little wolves. Dog, the problem is that the tail can't wag. The total tonnage sunk is not low. The sinking of the aircraft carrier Ark Royal is definitely an incredible achievement. U-81 is also a ferocious wolf. U-96 didn't think she was as good as U-81, she said, she is actually a senior of U-81. U-47 is type AIB, but U-81 is type AIK, and so is U-96. Shouldn't we call U-81 sister? Sugu just arrived. He put the bowl on the dining table and pushed it to U-96. He walked around the dining table and walked to the opposite side of U-96. U-81 picked her up and held her in her arms. The ferocious wolf U-81 suddenly turned into a cute wolf. The cute face of the young girl turned red for a moment, and her body became stiff and nervous. Why did Sugu choose U-81 instead of U-47 and U-505? Of course, it's not that this little girl has a super good figure or is not that perverted. The main reason is that she doesn't care about them like the other two. She is shy. I have to say that bullying a little girl is the most interesting. U-505 felt that they had no good record at all. They had a series of bad performances in history and were captured in the end. By this time, U-96 had already started eating, mumbling words that no one could understand, just a series of aha and nodding. Even though she knew about U-96, Beizai was indifferent. She was immersed in her own world. As the eldest sister of the German family, Bismarck came over specially. Prince Eugen stood beside her. She was curious about U-96's appearance in the garrison. On the way to the cafeteria, Sugu carefully asked about U-96's situation. At this time, he explained. U-47 laughed loudly. He was actually caught by Suk Bader. U-505 was also amused, but she was still very polite and smiled lightly, not so unscrupulously. U-81, on the other hand, was held in Sugu's arms and was still nervous. She didn't even pay attention to what Sugu said, her head was a mess. Prince Eugen said, "Have you not eaten for 3 days? As long as the ship girl has fuel to attack, she will be fine. She does not need to sleep or eat or drink. Of course, it is best to eat, drink and rest, but once on the battlefield, sleepiness and hunger will all come up in an instant." The performance of U-96 is really not surprising. Bismarck said, "There is no admiral, no acquaintances, just woke up, all alone. U-96 is still doing the same thing. I want to be a ship girl mercenary, I am a hunter, hunting deep-sea ship girls." U-47 had a strong skin and climbed onto Sugu's back, whispering, "Admiral, I also want to be a ship girl mercenary. It's very tiring, and..." Bismarck looked at U-96. She used to be a ship girl mercenary and traveled all over the world. With her level of training, the mission was not too difficult. But for ordinary people, it's different. After all, with the use of ship girl mercenaries, the enemy will definitely not be simple. If it's just a submarine with only one level of training, it's really wishful thinking. U-96 asked, "Isn't it possible?" "Definitely not." U-47 put her arm around Sugu's neck and she said rudely, "You are too weak." "Although I am weak now, I can become stronger." U-96's voice unexpectedly had a hint of pride and iron-bloodedness. "When I become strong, when I become famous, no one will remember how weak I was before. Senior U-47, maybe you are strong now, but I will soon surpass you. By then, everyone will be my prey." "Beyond me," U-47 snorted. She didn't mind attacking newcomers. "Do you know how many times I attacked in total? How many results did I achieve in total? You actually want to surpass me? My training level is 100. U-96 pursed her lips. She refused to admit defeat. She could still do it even if her training level was 100. "It also reminds me that a certain person really shouldn't be compared. Ever since I saw how powerful everyone in the guards' house is and how difficult it is to surpass, now I have given up my efforts, lived longer and returned, and resigned myself to becoming a salted fish. I might as well being a teacher of little lowly is far away from right and wrong." And her student York City still knows how to train every day, striving to surpass everyone and become a senior and sister, although his training level is now almost surpassed by the newcomers of CV-16. There is no other way. CV-16 has talent. As an Essex class, the ship's equipment parameters are not weak. It has hard work and understanding. It is also carefully taught by its sisters Lexington and Essex and its teacher Bald Eagle Bell McCann. And even the 16th wife who had a baby marriage at birth and became the admiral, no one dared not pay attention to her. She was simply the second-generation official and second-generation rich among the ship's wives, winning at the starting line. It's not a matter of training. Even if it's me, I can't be a ship's mercenary, U-47 said. We are submarines. We can't fight head-on. We can only make sneak attacks. We can encounter anything. Deep-sea destroyers and deep-sea light cruisers are special. If there are too many, they will be easily sunk. Unless they form a wolf pack. Wolves. U-96 muttered to himself, with a distressed expression on his face, and spoke again, but I'm very cheap. As long as I have food, that's enough. Bismarck was amused, and she turned to Sugu, Admiral, otherwise. No need to ask at all, I definitely agree. Sugu knew what Bismarck wanted to say. He raised his hand to stop her from continuing. He asked, U-96 wants to be a ship girl mercenary. Yeah, U-96 nodded. Otherwise, I will hire you, and you will stay in our townhouse to work for me, Sugu said. I will never treat you badly, such as 5 insurances and 1 housing fund, 9 to 5, 2 weekends off, the most basic things, and paid leave, overtime allowance, food and accommodation, birthday red envelopes, everything is available. Sugu laughed as he spoke. He didn't know if U-96 could understand. He remembered that when he was looking for a job, there were at most 5 insurances and no gold in small cities. 9 out of 10 jobs were 6 days a week. 1 day's rest was really not enough, and one was lazy. After half a day, I thought I would have to work tomorrow and was not in the mood to play, so civil servants were definitely the best choice. What are you hiring me for? U-96 said, I can only fight. Well, I'm not strong enough yet, but I will work hard and I will never let the commander down. This won't work, that won't work either, it's hard for me to handle. Sugu touched his head and pretended to think, since you can't do anything and can't fight, then our treatment can only be lowered. U-96 said, it doesn't matter, sir, just tell me. Sugu said, food and accommodation are included, no more, but you can eat whatever you want. I go to several small U-boat dormitories from time to time. The purpose is self-evident. I like to sleep with U-81 in my arms the most. The little girl's body is soft. The wall next to U-47's bed is covered with crayon graffiti. There are at most 4 beds in a multi-person dormitory. Remembering that there was an empty bed next to U-505, with messy things thrown on it, Sugu thought to himself, he had to ask their opinions again, and he couldn't arrange it casually. U-96 nodded, her requirements were really not high. Speaking of which, Ship Girl can keenly detect the malice in a person's heart, but Sugu was just doing it for fun, and there was no malice at all. It was too late for the young girl to love her. Don't worry, Sugu suppressed his smile, the main reason is that you don't know anything now. We still have to spend time training you so that you can stand on your own in the future and become a regular employee of our garrison. What I just said, we have all of them, absolutely no discounts. After hearing about U-96, as a German Leipzig, she naturally came to join in the fun. She yelled, Admiral, what you said is exactly the same as what those black-hearted bosses I met before. What you say in the front sounds nice, but there is nothing behind. No, Leipzig said, you are a black-hearted boss. You haven't cashed in my salary and benefits yet. Eliminating the person in question, Sugu shouted, Blucher, pull Leipzig down and shut her up. Don't think that the young girl doesn't understand anything. Bismarck rubbed her forehead and said, U-96, don't worry, it's okay. Black-hearted boss or something, everyone is joking. The reliable big sister spoke. U-96 thought, let's leave it like this. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 952. Successfully brought U-96 into the town guard mansion. It's not that we're done, the charge has just begun. If you want to become her real commander and admiral, you must be sincerely recognized. However, there is no other competitor but yourself. It is always easier to monopolize the business. Besides, as a little Lolita killer, he is proficient in various skills. It's not too difficult. In short, if you know yourself and your enemy, you can win 100 battles, but what kind of child is U-96? Sugu thought and observed. I agreed to cover it up. I asked the 3 small U-boats carefully. Do you mind if new people join? I emphasized that there was no force, no need to worry about the admiral not liking it, and I expressed my opinions boldly, but still received no questions answered. U-96 was arranged in a room with 3 small U-boats. There is no problem with the big white cap, and the hydrophone can be worn if you want. The twin ponytails are very cute, and the big sawfish hairpin is also very cute. This is a personal preference, but the problem with the clothes is bigger. The degree of exposure is really a bit high. Small, it's okay if your belly is exposed, and you don't have to worry about your thighs. It's really not okay in the southern hemisphere to have your belly exposed like this. The 3 small U-boats are not as tall as U-96. To be honest, in terms of body shape, U-96 can really be said to be a girl, at least a little lowly. However, submarines all have young girls. This is the setting. Although there is no problem wearing it, there is no need and there is no shortage. The rooms of the big mackerel and the archerfish are in another building. Finally, I found Sukov and borrowed a beautiful pink dress and underwear. In which Surkouf was so embarrassed that his face turned red is another story. I brought the clothes. There was a bed above and a desk below. Sugu put things on the desk and sat down on the big chair in front of the desk. Since U-81 climbed onto the bed and had no choice, he hugged U-47 who was whirring. Bismarck, his little sister, naturally followed her the whole time. She picked up her clothes and suddenly thought of something, turned around and stared at Sugu. Sugu noticed Bismarck's gaze and looked around, feeling baffled. Admiral, be more conscious, Prince Eugen said. Sugu didn't understand. What am I conscious of? Well, Prince Eugen said, do you want to sit here and watch U-96 change clothes? I didn't pay attention, Sugu reacted immediately. He quickly stood up in amusement and walked out while explaining, muttering in his heart, wasn't he changing in the bathroom? Until Sugu left and stood in the corridor, U-47 broke away from his arms and ran into the room. Prince Eugen closed the door and locked it after hesitation. This kind of behavior definitely showed great distrust of Sugushin. How could such a strong character do such a dishonorable thing? Has U-96 been washed? After swimming in the sea, you must rinse it again with clean water. Bismarck knocked on the bathroom door. All right. U-96 stood under the shower, washed away the last bit of foam, opened the bathroom door, with long white hair wet on his back and chest, and walked out in slippers. Bismarck quickly wiped her hair and body with a towel. She had experience in taking care of Bazai and Xiazai, and was not a soldier who only knew how to fight. Underwear, then underwear. Even if he was standing naked in the room or in front of others, U-96 was not too shy and Bismarck did whatever he wanted. U-505 and U-81 were sitting side by side on the bed. She was as big as a kid, U-81, U-96's breasts are bigger than yours. U-81's face was red, he was speechless and didn't know what to say. U-505 swayed her legs, and she spoke again. U-81, you don't seem to be wearing underwear. U-96 is wearing underwear. Of course it's just children's underwear, not bra. U-81 blushed so much that he bled. But Sukov's breasts are still bigger. U-505 thought for a while. Our Churfish is not as powerful as her. You really don't understand. Blucher interrupted, the bigger the better, the Admiral likes the big ones. U-81 is okay, don't be shy. U-81, this is something to be proud of. On the contrary, it's you two, U-47 and U-505, no, if you don't work hard, you will cry sometimes like Veneto. Prince Eugen gave his sister a hard slap on the head. Sister, they are still children, what do you teach them? Blucher said, I see. Bismarck changed U-96's clothes, and then Prince Eugen opened the dormitory door. Sugu waited for a long time. As soon as he walked into the room, he saw U-96. He saw that the young girl's hair was loose, not tied into a pair of ponytails, and her graceful back neck could not be seen. It was a pity. Also, although there were layers of skirts, the little dress she wore was much cuter than the original outfit, but I always felt like something was missing, that it was no longer U-96. Prince Eugen asked, how is it? U-96 is very beautiful and cute. Oh. Sugu complimented him, but didn't want to get a cold response. U-96 didn't understand what he did wrong, and Commander Su seemed unhappy. Is this job training? Sleeping in a warm bed, not in the cold sea, U-96 felt extremely happy. The night passed and he sat in the classroom the next day. Silver mid-length hair falls on her shoulders, ruby earrings are dangling, and she wears a suit skirt and high heels. Zeppelin is taking a sexy route. She stands on the podium, waving a pointer, looking majestic and like a trembling queen, but she is completely intimidating. Not as gentle as Mr. Rodney. Your opponent definitely understands your shortcomings better than you do. As the strongest light mother, how can it be impossible for her not to counter submarine? The above is purely slander. Zeppelin is really a regular aircraft carrier and is not good at anti-submarine warfare. Even so, she knew a lot and had no problem teaching a new sub. Of course, they are like Flying Eagle, Falcon, Princeton, etc. They are good at anti-submarine. They have bombed fish too many times in the past. To exaggerate, they can do anti-submarine with their eyes closed. They are 10,000 times more powerful than Zeppelin, but they are not fooled at all. Not so with teachers. In the same way, there are U-47 and a few others, and the big mackerel also joins in the fun. She likes to show off her achievements in front of the newcomers. As submarines with a training level of up to 100, they can naturally give countless opinions to U-96, but they all speak from experience, and there is no the method is to say 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 systematically. Anyway, Zeppelin has been devoted to this group of little Lolita all her life. Her indifference to another German little Lolita, who is not that naughty and mischievous at first glance, is very similar to her own. The teacher respects me from the bottom of his heart and is quite satisfied. For example, fantasy, law fight, etc., if the training reaches the limit, then there is no need to take classes, it is meaningless. By analogy, even if it is not a submarine, it is not wrong to listen to destroyers. Destroyers that are not trained enough have to take classes together. Zeppelin not only teaches U-96 alone, but also teaches her the knowledge that she must master as a submarine. What should you do if you encounter a deep-sea light mother? How to avoid anti-submarine aircraft? What about encountering deep-sea destroyers and light cruisers? The chalk clicked on the blackboard. Zeppelin said a lot. U-96 also listened very seriously and nodded happily. Then he looked at the other little Lolita and couldn't help but educate. Look at you, you're not paying attention in class, you're distracted, you're passing notes, you're whispering to each other. I don't ask for more, it's enough for someone U-96 to be even half serious. How to pick your enemies, Zeppelin continued. U-96 interrupted at this time, every prey is valuable, and you must not be picky when hunting. Unless there is valuable prey, attacking easily will only alert the snake. Deep-sea ship girls have no wisdom. It is just that they are bound by negative emotions such as hatred, pain, anger, etc. They will not wait stupidly to attack. The more anti-submarine people give priority to attacking big ships, and then retreat immediately, the less anti-submarine people give priority to attacking anti-submarine ships. Zeppelin explained carefully and then spoke again, darkness is the best cover for submarines. U-96 raised his hand high, a good hunter must be good at timing. If the timing is perfect, you can take action during the day. When you become more powerful in the future, you can choose to take action during the day. Now you are still a novice and don't know how to judge the situation. Zeppelin had a headache, and this little lowly seemed to be difficult to deal with. After the professional class came the cultural class, which everyone needs to take. Zeppelin suddenly discovered that U-96 was obviously not that attentive. Although she was not lying on the table, her eyes were dull, which was a shame for her previous praise. Listen carefully to the lecture, Zeppelin promised. When there is a chance in the future, I will take you to attack. Zeppelin often made promises, either for attacks, outings, picnics, playgrounds, etc. On the one hand, he really liked the little Lolita, and on the other hand, every promise could ensure that the little Lolita would be peaceful for several days. Because Sugu needing to be responsible for the entire town hall, she spent more time with a group of little girls than he did. U-96 was non-committal. Zeppelin was surprised that U-96 didn't seem to be very interested in attacking. They kept talking about hunter and prey. What was wrong? She thought about it again. I'll take you to Sichuan show another day, go to the food court, eat delicious food, and have a big meal. You must have never eaten before. U-96's eyes sparkled, really? When the last class was over and it was time to eat after class, U-96's eyes were filled with anticipation, his head nodded and his body swayed. Zeppelin holds his forehead, another problem child. On the dock. This time it was an exercise, and U-96's opponent was Helena. Helena didn't usually go to class. She was the dean, and she was the best at teaching people. She was punished for running, standing, and copying, except for a few well-behaved, smart, and serious ones, such as Venus and Encycpus. Rodney, Acasta, etc., all of them have suffered, and then the exercise can be regarded as a lesson. Sugu worked hard for a long time, and when the work was completed, he also watched from the side and found that the U-96 ship decoration was complex and exquisite. The instrument panel on the chest indicates the depth. Even submarine diving has a limit. The maximum is 300 meters. The handheld device looks like a real battleship model. In front is an anti-submarine net cutter. The drainage holes and side lights are clearly visible. You can see the rust. If it's a game, the artist must be a fastidious person, careful and powerful. U-96, be careful to get out of my way, Helena shouted, asking U-96 to enter the water first. Naturally, live ammunition cannot be used in exercises. There is one thing that is very useful, such as potatoes. If there are no potatoes, apples can also be used. Until U-96 disappeared on the sea and Helena went to the battlefield carrying a large bag of apples, it was actually better to use stones. Helena has Kirov cannons all year round. This was given to Kirov before, but Kirov gave it to her again. The reason has long been seen, and she doesn't care so much. Anyway, it is of no use to hold it, so it is better to give it to her. Unlike the Hornet, the B-25 didn't give anything to anyone. Coupled with sonar and bombardiers, it had more than 100 anti-submarine weapons. It was easy to find the U-96 and chase after it, dropping apples one after another. As time passed, U-96 was still unable to get rid of Helena, declaring her failure. Helena returned to the shore, and soon U-96 also returned to the shore. She was seen holding many apples, with one apple in her hand, and she had already eaten most of it. U-96, where did you get the apple? Sugu confirmed everything, and it must have been thrown by Helena, but the apple represented the depth charge. He said, you can't take it? U-96 is ignorant, with round eyes of an owl. The little loli runs around, and the kitchen is a place she often goes to. U-96 follows everyone through the kitchen, walking slower and slower. U-96, U-47 walked in front and shouted. U-96 looked at the tomatoes placed on the basket. She just looked at them. She didn't look like Quincy secretly took them without realizing it and pretended to be stupid when someone discovered them, or Akage took them openly and confidently. Want to eat? Yuxian touched U-96's head. U-96 nodded and looked at the tomato that Yuxian put into his hand. Is this the employment life? April Fool's Day has passed for several days, and a lot of things, big and small, have happened to U-96. On this day in the coffee shop, Sugu looked at several U-boats sitting at the same table. U-81 was playing with his three little wolves. U-47 was watching brain teasers. She liked watching brain teasers the most, and then asked him to challenge U-505. Eating double skin milk with a small spoon, U-96 has a large plate of snacks in front of him. There is no doubt that U-96 is a foodie. As a submarine, he probably hates canned food. It is said that the governor's mansion has a lot of canned food in stock, including drumfish, luncheon meat, beef, etc., and there are also a lot of canned fruits such as yellow peaches and citrus, but they are rarely eaten on a daily basis. Yuxian pays most attention to fresh ingredients, and only occasionally uses them as food. Open a snack. In addition, she is a mouthless girl who usually has no expression, which is very different from Lan. He doesn't like to talk much and is very indifferent to everything, except eating. It's not as naughty as U-47. In fact, it's easy to deal with a bit naughty. It likes to be quiet, but it's not as shy as U-81. In fact, I don't really like to go out and fight. With a character like this, how should I gain favor? Sugu thought to himself. He watched U-96 eat almost all of a large plate of snacks, leaving only the last piece. Just as he was about to eat it, he dropped it to the ground. He immediately bent over to pick up the snacks, looking at the snacks with a blank expression. Santiago, who was passing by, noticed something was wrong, so she said, "No more. It's not dirty, you can still eat it." U-96 hesitated for a moment, but still couldn't bear to part with it. He blew a few breaths and finally ate the snack. After all the snacks were eaten, U-96 was lying on the table like this, with his chin on the table. His face seemed to be getting flatter and flatter. His hands were also placed on the table, stretched out. He didn't know what he was thinking about. It should be anything. Didn't think about it, just like salted fish. Sugu looked away from U-96. No matter how difficult it is. Such a big cute thing has to be ordered. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 953. Even though she is just a little girl, U-96 is not an idiot. After many days, she somewhat understands what the so-called employment is, but she still doesn't quite understand it. Anyway, that's it, a happy life. Day by day, it will soon be May. During this period, deep-sea warship girls appeared twice near the garrison. They were just small fish and shrimps. There was no deep-sea capital ship and they were easily suppressed. On the other hand, a powerful deep-sea fleet appeared in other places. There was no way to solve the problem locally, so they went to the garrison for help, so the aircraft carrier formation headed by Akage launched an attack. There was no surprise or danger. There was no problem that a wave of openings could not solve. This is the first rain in May. It is not a drizzle. It is a bit heavy unexpectedly, but it is not a heavy downpour. The rainwater flows down from the eaves, like a curtain, and falls on the dense magnolia tree with a ticking sound. Knocking off a few magnolia petals, sweeping the floor will be a big trouble. After getting up in the morning and returning to the bathroom, Sugu stood by the window for a while. Suddenly he felt a chill. He closed the window and closed the curtains. The skylight shining into the room through the gap in the curtains immediately disappeared. He returned to the bedside and just sat down when he heard a slight noise. Lazy voice. "Admiral, what time is it?" Sleeping on the bed was a woman with medium-long blonde hair. She opened her eyes slightly and closed them quickly. She has a reputation as the head maid. Although she usually wakes up early to get ready at dawn, she never slacks off. At least she is willful when Sugu is around. The main reason is Sugu's strong request. Sugu said, "Is reputation awake?" The decoration of the prestige room is simple and elegant, with no decorations. Even so, thanks to Sugu's help in decorating it, otherwise she wouldn't care at all, as long as she has a place to live. Sugu-shun picked up the only ornament on the bedside table besides the photo frame, a small alarm clock, 7 o'clock. "Go on to sleep. It's raining." "I won't go for a run today." Normally, he needs to get up early for a run. Sugu got up, and Shen naturally got up too. The messy hair stuck to his forehead, and he said in a prestige, "The Admiral is very happy. It is said that no matter what goddess she is, she will not be interested in her even after a few years." However, Sugu never got tired of her. He got into the quilt and hugged Sheng Sheng gently. The woman's body was soft and warm. "Of course I am happy." Not only was Bismarck asking for it, Sugu also wanted to work hard to exercise. After all, there were so many weddings, what would he do if he didn't have a strong body? In fact, he mainly wants to maintain a strong body shape. Everyone is so beautiful, and he has to work hard to become a person who matches them. There is no way to change his appearance, height, etc., but his mental outlook can. "I definitely don't like to exercise, but I always force myself to get up. Although I stayed in the rooms of Helena, Colorado, and others, in the morning I was pulled by them and said things like 'next time, it's just one time, Admiral hug me,' and the like, but in the end, there were occasional situations where I couldn't move. Now that I'm up, catching up with the dreamy little princess who wakes up early to run will bring benefits, but that's a story for another day. Rainy days are better. When it rains, you can't run. Otherwise, it won't have the effect of exercising, and you will end up with colds and fevers. Then something serious will happen. You don't have to worry about it. You can comfort yourself. God is not good. I had no choice but to sleep more." It was not just Sugu who enjoyed the hug, but also Sheng Sheng. No one spoke for a while, and the room was quiet. When the sound of rain came over, Sugu said, "Does Sheng Sheng like rain?" Reputation replied, "I don't like it." "Why?" Sugu said, "Don't say anything. Clothes are not easy to dry on rainy days. All I can think about is maid work." It's not that Sheng Sheng smiled and thought to himself that he liked being a maid and taking care of people, but the Admiral always wanted him to rest more and not force himself, which was annoying and gratifying at the same time. "I don't like rain either. Heavy rainstorms are not bad." Sugu paused and said, "I remembered that I had always wanted to build a bay window. You know the bay window, but then it rained heavily outside, and we slept inside. It must feel great to read a book while listening to the rain outside the bay window, but I have been struggling to fix it until now." Sheng Sheng smiled. "There is also a large bathhouse. You have sung it many times, but it has not been repaired now. This large bathhouse will definitely be repaired this year, Not necessarily, Sugu said. Anyway, Yubari is back, and the hot water system, or other things, can be handed over to her. As for Yubari, she keeps complaining. Sugu's mascot, Lexington secretary, captain, admiral, has the reputation of being a big housekeeper, and is responsible for specific matters. Yubari has been assigned to do various tasks by her, and she can't say that arrangement. Yubari is not her subordinate, so she can only say please, check and repair various things, water pumps, freezers, air conditioners, etc. Sugu said, Zizang just said it with his mouth. She actually doesn't have much to say about her reputation. She is the kind of person who does more and talks less. Sugu said more, in addition to the bay window, there is also a fireplace. I have always wanted to build a fireplace. I would light a fire in winter and have a rocking chair next to it. Then I slept on the rocking chair and read a book. It seems that a chimney is necessary to repair a fireplace, it seems so troublesome. Sugu recalled, I still remember that I used to go to the Prince of Wales. They were in a castle that looked like a castle. There was a fireplace there. I started to like it at that time. Don't you have a kotetsu, Admiral? Sheng Sheng said, I remember you said last time that you like sleeping in a kotetsu and eating oranges the most. Yes. Reputation definitely understands Sugu, the Admiral always thinks of one thing after another. After talking a lot, getting ready to get up at 8 o'clock, Sugu sat up and leaned against the bedside with a smile. Without your service, would Muta be sitting in front of the dressing table in his pajamas, with his hair as messy as a bird's nest, and his shoulders drooped, eyes dull. Just because she has a reputation of being steady and generous doesn't mean that she won't be naughty from time to time, probably. I'm really not slandering. The elegant lady is just a facade. The stupid character is really funny. Yesterday or the day before yesterday, I had another quarrel with Bismarck. The problem is that he lost and actually came to me to complain. Sugu thought of something again. Reputation, have you ever told me? Muad seems to be asking for Bismarck, but I have read her essays. In fact, she likes Bismarck. Finally got up, Sheng Sheng was in front, Sugu was behind. He had just walked into the cafeteria when he saw Missouri waving to him, gesturing for him to go over. He walked slowly over and saw that there were lettuce salad, soft-boiled omelette, and vodka on the dining table. There is also milk. How about it? Sugu looked at the delicious food on the table and saw it. Well, I don't know the taste yet, but the delicious food is definitely there. Before he ate his food, he said, tell me the truth, who made it for you? Sugu tasted the soft-boiled omelette, and the taste was just like that. It was just good or not bad. He didn't mean to say anything, but he saw Missouri holding his face in his hands and looking at him. He praised, not bad. Since her marriage, Missouri has changed a lot. She used to be considered Lao Sig, but now she has become a bit clingy little girl. She has never been in the kitchen and now works hard to learn cooking skills. Of course, Yuxian and Fuzang should never think about surpassing them. He is the type who is more talented than you and works harder than you. There is still a long way to go before Lexington, at least a little progress. The rain kept falling, making it inconvenient to do anything. Sugu found CV-16 in the cafe and gave her a set of cheongsam some time ago, thinking that if CV-16 had joined New China and became a fishery administration ship, what should it look like now? I finally saw her wearing it today. CV-16, are you interested in changing your name? Sugu sat down opposite CV-16. He saw the girl with a cold expression, long flaxen hair, a tassel hairpin, and a peony-colored high-cut cheongsam that outlined the bumps. A well-shaped figure, extremely attractive. Rename, CV-16 wondered, Cabot. CV-16 was originally named Cabot, but during her construction, the last Lexington sank in the Coral Sea. There was only one woman in the Coral Sea, so it was renamed Lexington to commemorate her predecessor, which also made her the fifth battleship named Lexington in honor of the Battle of Lexington. No, 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 it's not. Liaoning sounds good, right? Is wide silence wild and cool? Sugu thought to himself that the aircraft carrier was named after a provincial administrative unit, which was in line with the Navy's practice. The Variag was mainly reborn in Dalian City, Liaoning Province. It also had the meaning of heaven, Liao, and Earthning in Liaoning Province, which reflected the China focuses on peace, and developing aircraft carriers is also for peace. Naturally, for peace, we need more. If we take the if line, it would not be bad for CV-16 to join New China. It feels very strange. CV-16 is Cove-16. CV-16 was petting the ferocious tiger in Kent. Sugu had told her many times about the story in history that CV-16 almost turned into a fishery vessel. She also knows a little about the Liaoning. If you agree to change the name, the ferocious big tiger will be yours. Otherwise, ginger fish cakes and Oscar will be fine. Just pick one, Sugu said, thinking that if he could build the Liaoning, she would be ruthless. I am invincible. But the Liaoning can be built, and the American batch of nuclear power should be no problem, then DDG-1000. 052D? Nuclear fish? This game is boring. CV-16 suddenly raised his head and his eyes lit up. Sugu rubbed his forehead. He had a headache. The girl used to be a cold and charming iceberg beauty with a serious smile. How did she become like this now? Bizai could always give Sugu an unexpected surprise when he wasn't paying attention. For example, he used to go to Lianghe County to find Xiaoxiang Leiden and Tianlong Ryuada. When he came out of the bath at night, he wore a loose yukata on his body, which was very practical. It feels a bit amazing. The complex is a large building with many rooms. In addition to cafes, izakayas, classrooms, libraries, art studios, and other activity rooms, there are also many empty rooms used for other purposes. Not many people like basketball, and it takes up a lot of space and doesn't have an indoor basketball court. A football field is definitely not possible. It occupies too much space and cannot be built outdoors. There can be a Kyoto club. Many Japanese people like Kyoto, and others occasionally join in the fun. Sugu happened to pass by the indoor badminton court and was attracted by something. With medium-long pink hair tied into a ponytail, a white peaked cap on his head, a snow-white short-sleeved sweatshirt paired with a beautiful skirt and white sneakers, and waving a badminton racket, Beizai looks really energetic and youthful. When nothing happened, Sugu stood outside the window and watched Beizai playing badminton. Her opponent was Houston. It has to be said that Beizai is still very good, successfully defeating Houston, and also defeated Königsberg and York City, who came on stage one after another. Among them, Bumblebee sat on the sidelines and watched. York City sent her a badminton racket in front of her, but she did not pick it up. He only shook his head until he encountered Bismarck and was defeated. Can Beizai still play badminton? Sugu said. He found that Beizai could win mainly because of her opponent Teike. The next showdown between Bismarck and Richelieu was the real fight between dragons and tigers. You come and I go. Which made him dizzy. Beizai raised his lips, of course. Sugu said, you actually come out to exercise instead of staying in your room. Beizai was shameless, I like sports. Consultant Su, even if I force you to come here, you will definitely look weak. Well, what did your sister promise you? I thought it was another beautiful day, and I hope it will continue like this. The rain finally stopped at noon. In the afternoon, Sugu was resting in the coffee shop. An unexpected guest came, unexpected, after all, it was not a weekend or a holiday, but the guest didn't count. He had short blonde hair. A colossus of a wizened girl. Colossus, Sugu said, Why are you here? What's the matter? So she said she was not a guest, and Colossus was not polite at all. She took a snack from a table and said, "Can't you come if you don't have something to do?" Ken, Ken, Sugu said, "You didn't go to work on Wednesday and came to us. Did you make a mistake in the college and was fired?" "You just got fired," Colossus said, "although you have messed up things a few times before, you don't blame me. The words on those documents are too small, and I accidentally read them wrong. Someone must have touched my water glass. Otherwise why would it appear somewhere?" Sugu said, "Yes, this is not my fault, this is the world's fault." Colossus hummed and said, "A few days ago, the dean of the academy came to see me and wanted me to be an instructor at the aircraft carrier academy to teach the newcomers and rookies how to fly carrier-based aircraft. Colossus often goes to the town hall. Apart from being a chatterbox, the girl is quite cute and everyone likes to give her guidance. As a result, she has grown rapidly." Advisor Sue, "So you are an instructor now?" "Not yet," Colossus thought to himself. He had enough training, but there was a big problem. He couldn't teach anyone at all. Sugu shook his head, amused. Colossus shouted, "Why are you laughing?" The girl became angry from shame, and Sugu had to restrain herself. "Okay, I'm here to find you," Colossus said. "I was sorting files in the office this morning when I went to work. I hate sorting files. It's too troublesome. I have to do something big. Suddenly I found the snacks I had put in the drawer. Dried figs and wafers." Sugu couldn't help but said, "Please tell me the key points." "Good.